Good evening. I would like to call to order the Oregon City Council regular meeting for April 14th, 2025. The time is 7 p.m. Would you please join me in standing for the Pledge of Allegiance? Thank you. Ms. Rawson, would you please take a roll call of council members present?
Mrs. Ackerman. Here. Mr. Horniak.
Here.
Mrs. Pauloff.
Here.
Mr. Reeves.
Here.
Mr. Slander.
Here.
Mr. Wallensack.
Here.
Please note that Mr. Drake is not in attendance today, but he did send me a message that he will not be in attendance tonight. I would like to seek a motion to excuse Mr. Drake from tonight's meeting.
Mr. President,
Yes, Mr. Salander.
I'd like to make a motion to excuse Councilman Drake from tonight's council meeting.
Thank you, Mr. Salander. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Horniak. Council, any objections? Hearing none, Mr. Drake is excused from tonight's meeting. Also present at tonight's meeting is our Mayor, Michael J. Safarian, our City Administrator, Joe Major, our Clerk of Council, Cassie Rawson, and Josette Snyder, Public Service Director, Paul Roman, Chief of Police, Brandon Began, Assistant Chief of Police, Ryan Spangler, our Fire Chief, Clayton O'Brien, our Assistant Fire Chief, Mark Mullins, and our Finance Director, Mr. Nick Roman. Next order of business is to approve the meeting minutes from the March 24th, 2025 regular council meeting and the April 4th meeting of 2025 committee of the whole meeting. Council.
Mr. President,
Yes, Mr. Horniak.
I move for approval of the minutes from the March 24th regular and the April 4th Committee of the Whole meeting as presented.
Thank you, Mr. Horniak.
Second.
Second by Ms. Pauloff. We have a motion by Mr. Horniak, second by Ms. Pauloff. Do we have any objections? Meeting minutes are accepted as presented. We're going to do our persons of delegation, but there are several people here that have signed in to talk about the roundabouts or the intersections. We're going to hold that off until we get to that ordinance, please. And the reason being is Mr. Roman talked to me today, and we have somebody from Lucas County that is going to be here, but he can't get here till about 7:30, so we'll wait to talk about that ordinance when he gets here. So first up to speak is Mr. Paul Gibbs. Mr. Gibbs, if you would please come up and state your name and address for the record.
Paul J. Gibbs, 3145 Dogwood Drive, Oregon, Ohio, 43616. Can you hear me okay?
Sure.
First of all, I'd like to thank all of you for your service and what you're doing for the Oregon community. You represent many people here. I think the population is around 20,000, and you have a lot of decisions to make. And I'd just like to offer up a prayer here, starting with the Lord's Prayer. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread. Forgive us our debts as we forgive our debtors. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom and the power and the glory forever. And Father, as I continue here, I'd like to just lift every person up in this room, Lord. If there's ever been a time that wisdom is needed, it's now. There's so many evil things going on in our world, in our communities. And Lord, we ask, Father, that you would just give us the grace and give us mercy, Lord, to endure these times. And Father, give us wisdom. Lord, help these men and women make wise decisions and not to do just what's right in their eyes, but what's right in your eyes, Father, because you're the only one that matters. In the end, we'll all stand before you and give account, and may we all receive that statement that we want to hear, "Well done, thy good and faithful servant." And Father, for those that might not know you, as we enter into this holy week where we just celebrate the death, burial, and resurrection of our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ, Father, may we always keep in mind that he is the way, the truth, and the life, and no man comes unto the Father but by him. And we'll give you the thanks for this. In Jesus' name, amen.
Thank you, Mr. Gibbs. Next up, Robin Burnett. Ms. Burnett, if you would please come up and state your name and address for the record.
My name is Robin Burnett, and I live at 446 South Wallendorf Road, Oregon, Ohio. And I'm here in regards to BJ's Restaurants going up for sale to be auctioned off on the 23rd. I mean, it just went up this week, I think it was. The sign just went in the yard anyways. And I'm concerned about it. It's been shut down, probably sat empty for what, maybe 6, 7 years. And it's had a 2-year limit on it, and it should have been reverted back to its original zoning, which I think is residential. So, and I'm here because I don't think that it should be sold as a restaurant. It should be, since it is returned as residential, the whole area is residential. All the neighbors do feel that we want to keep it residential. We've had problems in the past with bikers, and I've even had people come out of the restaurant drunk and drive around in my backyard. And plus too, you know, we've had all these restrictions put in, but he never opened. He was given a 2-year limit, and then that was extended a year, and he still didn't open. So I'm asking for it to stay as a residential, sold in the auction, residential, and to stay that way. Plus too, we've had problems with the last couple weeks. We had water gushing out of the back door of the restaurant. It's just come flowing out. And every time they have water, because they have no drainage in that parking lot, it all flows into our driveway. And it floods us out. And the water was just pouring out and pouring out and pouring out. Finally, I gave BJ a call, and he said, yeah, okay. The next day comes around, and the water's still coming out of the back door of the restaurant in the kitchen area, just pouring out into our driveway. Still nothing. I called him again, because just to make sure, you know, do you realize how serious this is? And so finally, I don't know if they turned the water off or something, but it stopped. Every time somebody has problems in that parking lot, the fence on our side, we own it. The fence on the other side is owned by other neighbors. Every time they have people that come in the parking lot, it's at our expense that we have to fix these fences, you know, so. But anyways, my request is that we keep it residential, because, like I said, we're all homes in that area. You know, we live there, it's our homes and our privacy, and he's tried to put up patios in the front. I'm sure you guys all remember that I took up a petition against the having a patio and music and everything and feeding people out in the front or in the back, you know, which is, you know, like I said, it's not a commercial area, or it's a residential area. And it had a grandfather law, but mysteriously, before Mr. Wilson bought it, or somewhere in that area, the grandfather law was lost, and all the records were just mysteriously disappeared. So I don't know. But anyways, so I'm here to request and ask that City Council will consider keeping that, since it's put back to its original zoning area, that it stays residential. That's my request.
Thank you. Mr. Mayor?
Yes, and I'll try to address that. The grandfather clause doesn't get lost. In fact, it probably still has a grandfather clause, because it was a commercial structure before the city was incorporated as a city. As a matter of fact, it came in a little after the turn of the century. And so if someone wanted to pursue that, they have legal rights. Anybody who holds that property. We asked BJ if he'd consider, I believe we gave him a special use. It was a special use, so that he accepted some conditions to try to work with the neighborhood. But someone, if they purchased that property, would still have rights to try to exercise a grandfather and probably have a real strong case. Anybody can apply for any zoning, and no one could stop the application. But before, we chose, and he chose to work with us to pursue a special use exception to help soothe some of the neighbors versus exercising the right of the grandfather clause. So it's not as easy as you say it goes back. It does not go back to residential.
It's already been put back,
It
zoning.
has not.
To residential.
It has not. When you're saying with a special use, if it is not put in use within a 2-year period, it resorts back to what it was, which would be the grandfather clause. So they would still have the right to pursue a restaurant under the grandfather clause and have a real strong case.
Well, the last time I was here, they said that if they didn't open within 2 years, he would not be able to open. So, and it's been way over 2 years, so it should not be able to
If
be
you
open.
listen closely to what we say, you're correct. In 2-year period, he would lose the special use exception and the conditions that were put on, and he'd fall back to the status that the property had, which was no zoning, because it was owned and operated prior to the zoning. That being said, it would have a grandfather clause if they chose to pursue that, which you can't take that away from them. So if
Well, there
if they
had to have
went-
been some kind of zoning there. It wouldn't be land with no zoning at all. If anything, it would have been agriculture. If it wasn't, if
You're missing that
residential.
point. It was before there was zoning. It had the grandfather clause, and that doesn't go away because it had operated as a commercial business prior to those houses being there. So it holds the status. So your request is only good if the owners of the property choose to not pursue the grandfather clause. If they pursue the grandfather clause, they have a very high percentage chance of prevailing, and it's not something this body has the power to override.
Well, all right, then you did say that he had a list of things that he was to abide by.
Because he chose to take that route, but he wouldn't have had to.
But since he chose to, he
It
needs to
expired.
abide by them.
That's not correct.
So why choose to abide by them if you don't have to abide by them? That
Because he
sounds
was being a
like,
decent guy.
because he was requested to not put in a patio, but he put one in anyways.
Because he could. You're saying we don't have, we only got the power that, by our charter, that we have. We don't have the power to trump that. So
But
I'm
that's
saying,
why we come to city council, so you hear my voice.
okay, we hear it, but we don't have the ability to enforce what you say. We appealed to BJ Lawson, and he chose to accept those conditions to be a good neighbor. Didn't really have to, but he did. And you know, it was, that's the rules. We can't violate the rules. We have to honor if someone pursues that grandfather cause, and we could challenge it, but if they prevail, the grandfather clause is the grandfather clause, and they'd be able to operate with very little restrictions. That's why we appealed to him with the special use exception, and he was working with us. So, you know, people have rights. It's just like if you had rights at your house and the rules changed, we can't change after you have, you got zoning in your house, and I'm gonna guess it's R1. And we can't just change it on you, just like we could not change it on a person that has rights prior to the city becoming a city. They had the rights, and we just can't take them away from them. We don't have that power.
I guess my understanding of the grandfather law was for the Ritzes, as long as it stayed within the family.
It goes with the property, not the person. Any zoning or lack of zoning goes with the property, not with the people that own the property. It goes with the property. Just like if you sell your house and it's yours is probably R1, and you sell it, it doesn't disappear because you sold it. It goes with the property, not with the person. So it doesn't go with the Ritzes. It went with the property. And the only way that could change is if the property owner chose to allow it to be changed.
Okay.
And I mean, I'm just being honest with you, and that's why we chose to work with B.J. Lawson, because the prior owner did have a lot of disruptions with the neighborhood, and he was trying to get along. So we will, if whoever chooses to buy it, we will try to work with them also to come out with the best conditions we may try to put on them, but we'll have to be careful so we don't go too far and then they just choose to go with the grandfather clause and not have so many rules.
Okay.
I'm just, you know, trying to.
Thank you.
We've been dealing with that property for some time, and it's not as easy as it first sounds. But we'll work with them, and hopefully we can come to a fairly good solution to whoever purchases it. I noticed it myself, seeing that and was curious with what might take place there. And we'll do the best we can.
Thank you, Ms. Burnett. Council, any other questions? Hearing none, we'll go on with our agenda for this evening. Like I said, one of our agendas we're going to keep bumping down until the gentleman from Lucas County gets here. So the first item on the agenda for passage is item number 73 of 2025, previously presented by Mayor Safarian and Fire Chief. It was Assistant Chief Mullins that talked about it. Chief, do you have anything else to add? Okay, Council, are there any additional questions on item 73 of 2025? Hearing none, I will assign item 73 of 2025 as ordinance 73 of 2025 and ask Ms. Rawson to please read it into the record.
Authorizing the mayor, fire chief, and finance director to sign change order number 1 with PennCare Inc., 1317 North Road, Niles, Ohio, in an amount of a net contract addition of $32,957 due to additional work related to change of specifications for the medic unit and declaring an emergency.
Thank you, Ms. Rawson. Council?
Mr. President,
Yes, Mrs. Pauloff.
I move for passage of ordinance 73 of 2025 as an emergency measure.
Thank you, Ms. Pauloff.
Second.
Second by Mr. Salander. We have a motion by Ms. Pauloff, a second by Mr. Salander. Ms. Rawson, would you please take a roll call vote of council?
Mrs. Pauloff?
Yes.
Mr. Salander?
Yes.
Mrs. Ackerman?
Yes.
Mr. Horniak?
Yes.
Mr. Reeves?
Yes.
Mr. Wallensack?
Yes.
Thank you. Ordinance 73 of 2025 does pass with a vote of 6 yeas to 0 nays. The next item on the agenda for passage is item number 74 of 2025, previously presented by Mayor Safarian and Assistant Fire Chief Mark Mullins. Anything further from the administration? Hearing none, council, are there any additional questions on item 74? Hearing none, I will assign item 74 of 2025 as ordinance 74 of 2025 and ask Ms. Rawson to please read it into the record.
Authorizing the mayor, fire chief, and finance director to sign change order number 1 with Penn Care Inc., 1317 North Road, Niles, Ohio, in an amount of a net contract addition of $21,219 due to additional work related to change of specifications for our medic unit and declaring an emergency.
Thank you, Ms. Rawson. Council?
Mr. President,
Yes, Mrs. Pauloff.
I move for passage of ordinance 74 of 2025 as an emergency measure.
Thank you, Mrs. Pauloff.
Second.
Second by Mr. Salander. We have a motion by Ms. Pauloff, second by Mr. Salander. Ms. Rawson, would you please take a roll call vote of council?
Mrs. Paula?
Yes.
Mr. Salander?
Yes.
Mrs. Ackerman?
Yes.
Mr. Horniak?
Yes.
Mr. Reeves?
Yes.
Mr. Walczak?
Yes.
Thank you. Ordinance 74 of 2025 does pass with a vote of 6 yeas, 0 nays. Our next item on the agenda for passage is item number 75 of 2025, previously presented by Mayor Safarian and Public Service Director, Mr. Roman. Mr. Roman, anything else to add? Thank you. Council, any additional questions on item 75? Hearing none, I will assign item 75 of 2025 as ordinance 75 of 2025 and ask Ms. Rawson to read it into the record.
Authorizing the mayor, director of public service, and finance director to issue payment to Hillebrand and Sons Construction, 5811 Woodville Road, Northwood, Ohio, for providing labor, materials, and equipment due to emergency replacement of Wheeling and Brown water valve and declaring an emergency.
Thank you, Ms. Rawson. Council?
Mr. President,
Yes, Mr. Salander.
I'd like to make a motion for passage of ordinance 75 of 2025 as an emergency measure.
Thank you, Mr. Salander.
Second.
Second by Ms. Pauloff. We have a motion by Mr. Salander, a second by Ms. Pauloff. Ms. Rawson, would you please take a roll call vote of council?
Mr. Salander?
Yes.
Mrs. Paula?
Yes.
Mrs. Ackerman?
Yes.
Mr. Horniak?
Yes.
Mr. Reeves?
Yes.
Mr. Walczak?
Yes.
Thank you. Ordinance 75 of 2025 does pass with a vote of 6 yeas, 0 nays. Our next item on the agenda for passage is item number 76 of 2025, previously presented by Mayor Safarian and our Director of Public Service, Paul Roman. Mr. Roman, anything from administration?
No, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. Roman. Council? Hearing-
Mr. President,
Yes, Mrs. Ackerman.
could you give the people that are here tonight just a brief synopsis and why that it's declared an emergency, please?
Yes, Mr. President. Yes, Mrs. Ackerman. Well, the project itself is for a bikeway that will go from the Walmart light across the Walmart property up to Star Avenue. And part of that project is putting in this wider sidewalk path in front of Fifth Third Bank. And we originally asked for an easement. They offered basically what's called they write it as a license, but it's a perpetual, irrevocable bikeway license. It's the same as an easement, but it gives you the rights to construct the project even though you're not acquiring the property. The reason for the emergency is that we had it in our CIP to construct that project this year. It's one of 2 other easements we need before we can issue the bids, but the idea was to construct the project this year. So that's why it was listed as an emergency.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Ackerman. Thank you, Mr. Roman. Any other additional questions? Hearing none, I will assign item 76 of 2025 as ordinance 76 of 2025 and ask Ms. Rawson to please read it into the record.
Authorizing the mayor, finance director, and director of public service to enter into agreements with Route 2 Investors LLC, an Ohio Limited Liability Company, and 5640 Airport Highway Limited, an Ohio Limited Liability Company, for a perpetual irrevocable license to allow for the establishment, construction, reconstruction, repair, or maintenance of a public use pedestrian and bicycle trail for the Oregon Trail Bikeway Phase 2 project and declaring an emergency.
Thank you, Ms. Rawson. Council,
Mr. President?
did you,
Yes,
oh, I'm sorry, I didn't hear it.
yeah, Mr. President.
Oh, no, sorry, Ms. Pauloff. Yes, Ms. Pauloff.
I move for passage of ordinance 76 of 2025 as an emergency measure.
Thank you, Ms. Pauloff. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Horniak. We have a motion by Ms. Pauloff, a second by Mr. Horniak. Ms. Rawson, would you please take a roll call vote of council?
Mrs. Pauloff?
Yes,
Mr. Horniak?
Yes.
Mrs. Ackerman?
Yes.
Mr. Reeves?
Yes.
Mr. Solander?
Yes.
Mr. Wallensack?
Yes.
Thank you. Ordinance 76 of 2025 does pass with a vote of 6 yeas, 0 nays. We're going to skip the next item on the agenda and move to the next one. Give me just a second. The next item on the agenda for passage is item number 78 of 2025.
Mr. Reeves,
Excuse me, Mr. President.
can we take a minute here?
Mr. President.
Mr. President, can I move for a quick recess?
Yes, we'll take a quick recess. Okay, it's 7:43, so we'll start the meeting back up. We're going on to the next item on the agenda, which is for consideration and passage is item number 79, or 78, excuse me, of 2025. It was previously presented by Mayor Safarian and Director of Public Service Paul Roman. Mr. Mayor, anything further from
No, we're good,
administration?
we're good.
Okay, thank you. Council, any questions, additional questions on item 78? Hearing none, I will assign item 78 of 2025 as ordinance 78 of 2025 and ask Ms. Rawson to please read it into the record.
Authorizing the mayor, finance director, and director of public service to enter into agreements with Joseph Brothers Company LLC and Ohio Limited Liability Company, Joseph Navarre Plaza LLC, and Ohio Limited Liability Company, and Joseph Navarre Plaza III LLC, and Ohio Limited Liability Company for the acquisition of temporary easements for the LUCSR 2-21.72 Navarre Avenue Safety PID 118234 project and declaring an emergency.
Thank you, Ms. Rawson. Council,
Mr. President,
Mr. Horniak.
I move for passage of ordinance 78 of 2025 as an emergency measure.
Thank you, Mr. Horniak.
Second.
Second by Ms. Pauloff. We have a motion by Mr. Horniak, a second by Ms. Pauloff. Ms. Rawson, would you please take a roll call vote of council?
Mr. Horniak.
Yes.
Mrs. Paula.
Yes.
Mrs. Ackerman.
Yes.
Mr. Reeves.
Yes.
Mr. Slander.
Yes.
Mr. Wallensack.
Yes.
Thank you. Ordinance 78 of 2025 does pass with a vote of 6 yeas to 0 nays. We're going to go back to item 77. The gentleman from Lucas County is here. So I know we had people that have signed up to speak, so we're going to go with that first. Mr. Dunaway was the first one, so I apologize to him and his family that he couldn't speak tonight, and hope that give him best well wishes from everybody here on council, administration, and everybody in the audience.
Mr. President,
Mr. Mayor.
being that this is something that come as an administrative task, I would ask if we would go to Paul Roman for a little presentation on, why we're here in the first place. Because, we did have many residents, council people, and accidents at these different intersections, and we were asked, what could we do to improve those intersections? And I know years ago, when I was a young councilman, I questioned an engineering design for Route 2 and Wheeling Street, which was a $100,000 price tag on designing the intersection for a traffic signal. And I thought that was this was more than 30 years ago. I thought that was pretty large sum of money to engineer and design a traffic signal and intersection. And people from the Ohio Department of Public Safety came and they explained all there was to designing an intersection. And it was pretty intense. So I learned then that there's more to an intersection than popping in a stop sign, popping in a traffic light, or where those different signals would even go. So when we're asked what we can do to improve an intersection, we have to go to professionals, and we start with Mr. Roman's department and Rodney Schultz, who happen to be the professionals we have on staff here, and Paul takes that very serious. And if anybody would go into Paul Roman's office, it's hard to find him in there. He's got stacks of papers of all kind of projects that are waiting to do with other requests that come to the city. And Paul's here. I wouldn't trade him for any service director in the territory because Paul is very sharp. And so when we go to address something that falls from his department, I take his advice very seriously because he's he's the professional that we have here and the one that's the most knowledgeable along with his staff. And he consults other people, like we have the county engineer here today who Paul's versed with him. And so I'd like to go to Paul Roman so he can tell us why they come to the conclusion and why we're here today.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Roman?
Thank you, Mr. President, and I appreciate that, Mayor. I do know when the people come here to speak, it can be nerve-wracking, so I'll be quick. And my hope is some things I can say may answer your questions before you come up. And it's not to take away from anything you want to say. I just want to make sure you understand where we were coming from. Originally, this whole subject popped up in budget. I did my year-end report, and then I had proceeded with what I was planning for '25, and I brought up roundabouts. And I just noticed that we had intersections in Oregon, two-way stops. The common problem with the two-way stop is it's never the person stopping at the stop street. It's just them thinking they can go when they can't. Cross traffic doesn't stop. It's a common problem across the country. I think for us, I had talked to this council for many years on these two-way stops, and a lot of them, I'll bring up the fact that we have to follow the Ohio Manual of Uniform Traffic Control Devices. The Ohio Revised Code states that we have to follow this manual. And last week I used the word warrant a lot. And I think people on Facebook took that as, well, Paul Roman's warranting. No, what I mean by warrant is that there's criteria in that manual that we are required by law to follow. It's not just us thinking something, it's that manual. And the problem with these two-way stops, the ones on Wynn Road in particular, and Lallendorf, don't get me wrong, there's a lot of two-way stops. There is a criteria that says you need 5 or more correctable accidents in a 12-month period to warrant a change, to make a change to traffic control. So a lot of people on Facebook, and I very good questions, why can't you just put in 2 stop signs? Why can't you put in traffic light? Well, this code says you need 5 or more correctable accidents in a 12-month period, okay? And I had always said that for a lot of years, and I remember Mr. Drake one time I had a conversation with, and he says, wait a minute, you're saying you need accidents? You need more accidents just to make a change? And I said, unfortunately, that is the code. That's what you go by. Well, what I learned is that there's a trend across the country, and I know it came up, and we've talked about it, roundabouts. You know, the idea is that it's not your typical traffic control. As a matter of fact, you're not really stopping traffic. So they are efficient because you have to slow down to go through it, but you're also saving time because you're not stopping for something that, in some cases, if a stop sign is not warranted, after a while, they're gonna stop stopping, and that's the problem. So anyways, I want to make clear that when I mentioned warrant, it was about referring to this manual. We are required by the revised code to follow it. Another question came up last night. Is this a design or is it a study? Okay. And I know Mr. Hornick could ask me those questions on the concept of his, I'm thinking, why is he asking me about a study? This is a preliminary design. Well, it is a preliminary design, but I would tell you in any design, and in this case, what I had stated is that what we are also going after is applying for grants. When you apply for a grant, you have to show there's a data analysis that confirms that you're going to make the improvement, that it's going to improve the safety. So my argument is that there's always a study portion of any design. If the question is, well, do you need a study to know whether roundabouts work? I'd say, no, I know the roundabouts will work. I do know they'll work. The scope of work that we had the quote for is preliminary design work. Design typically is 10% of your capital expense, and preliminary design is probably a third of that original design contract. That's this dollar amount. This is 3 intersections. It is standard for what we have, and You know, Mr. Dunaway, unfortunately, that happened to him. He called me earlier today and said, Paul, have we done any other studies prior to getting grants? And the answer is yes. Almost all of our large capital safety improvement projects were done first with a study, and then would get grant funding. You would hire the consultant, then you have public meetings. You present the ideas that the designer comes up with a very preliminary design, and you go through it with the public. And then the question is, do you keep proceeding or not? That's usually how it goes, okay? So I wanted to explain, it is a preliminary design, but there is a study element to it. The reason you can't just put in stop signs or a traffic light is you have to meet the Ohio manual. With roundabouts, it doesn't have to meet that same criteria. And what I discovered is other parts of the county was putting in these roundabouts with even less accidents. Our accidents are average 3 to 4 accidents a year, okay? Corduroy and Wynn has had 2 fatalities. One was a medical condition, the other one was, a person going at a very fast speed. But nonetheless, it was a fatality. Why did we look at the Wynn Road corridor versus Lollendorf and a lot of the other two-way stop intersections? Wynn, I think when you look at Wynn, in particular, Pickle Wynn and Brown and Wynn, you have one side of the road where there's not much development close to the intersection. We just thought they're actually ideal in terms of right-of-way, thinking that it'd be easier to fit a roundabout in. Corduroy and Wynn, we know that if the data center comes and we purchase the one property, the northwest corner would be more available for a development of a roundabout there. So that was our logic and thinking Wynn. And I think based on the way budget went, there was a Blade article, there was a Channel 11 story in December. I felt like I had direction to proceed to this point, and I presented what I presented last week, and I just wanted to touch base on things they said, but it's not as simple as just putting in stop signs. It's actually be illegal if you don't have enough accidents. So someone could say, well, wait a minute, why is it, so with less accidents, you can go to just a roundabout? The answer is, yeah, it's not the same. And I've been thinking of an analogy for tonight, and I can tell you that with Route 2, we went to the median, and we had stakeholder meetings over it, and the median on Route 2, it's a right in, right out of these private drives. The reason being is that the left turn movement out of these private drives is where all the accidents were. When we constructed the first Navarre Avenue project from 280 to Isaac Street's Dive, within 9 months, we reduced accidents by 80%, simply by having a right in, right out of these private drives. And if you think about how it works, is when you're leaving a drive now in that section, you only have to look to your left. That's it. Once the traffic clears, you make your right. If you need to then go the opposite direction, you're going to go to the nearest U-turn. When you go to that U-turn, you're going to look in one direction, and when it's safe, you go. It works extremely well. The roundabouts are no different. It's almost the same thing. It allows free-flowing traffic, so it is efficient and it's safe. And there's already data, there's a lot of data, that you definitely reduce the severity of accidents by 80%. So I wanted to clarify my comments from last week. I understand everyone's viewpoint. I think you do a poll, it's 50-50, and that's it. So I don't want to take away anyone else's time that's here.
I was just gonna say, you could call up our city or county engineer.
Mike, I don't know if, Mike Panuski is the Lucas County engineer. Mike, would you want to come up and just give your 2 cents?
Mike, if you would, please give your name and address for the record.
Thank you, Mr. President. My name is Mike Panuski. I'm the Lucas County engineer, and my office address is 1049 South McCord in Holland, Ohio.
Thank you.
Thank you. Just glad for Mr. Roman's invitation to speak before you today and answer any questions you may have on roundabouts. For those that don't know, here in Lucas County, we have over 50 of them. So we have over 50 roundabout intersections in Lucas County today. 30 of them are on our roads, on Lucas County roads. We typically install between 3 to 5 roundabout intersections every year. And this year is no exception. This year we have 3. We'll be installing 3 roundabout intersections, and then next year we'll be installing 5. So we have over 30 of them, and they have performed better than any of us could have imagined. So to give you some examples, largely at these intersections, they're all chosen based on statistics. There's either been a series of fatal accidents or serious accidents that have made people in an ambulance and going to the hospital that have caused life-changing injuries. All of them have between 3 to 7 of those types of accidents over a period of 3 years prior to us applying for the funds. Since they've been installed, those types of accidents are eliminated. So you're not going to have anybody in your community that's going to have to die, that's going to impact people's lives and the lives of people in your community that have to mourn and deal with somebody who's no longer there. You're not going to have to deal with the costs of dealing with people who have been injured or seriously injured and have a life-altering injury to their lives and to their families' lives and how it impacts that. And not only that, but it lowers the amount of total accidents at an intersection. So typically you see intersections, you get 67% of even the type of fender benders that you would get. And even those fender benders are such that they're much more lower in cost because they happen at lower speeds. So the biggest impact of a roundabout intersection is that it slows traffic down to the point, but it doesn't stop traffic. So, you have a stop sign, it means you're stopped, you have to look, you have to pay attention. When you go to a roundabout intersection, the only thing that you have to worry about is if there's somebody to your left. So you don't have to look both ways, you don't have to worry about who's coming, you don't have to worry about anything other than looking to your left. And if there's nobody present to your left, then you can continue through the intersection slowly. Also, by slowing down, it's better for pedestrians because people tend to notice pedestrians more when they slow down. They're more alert when they slow down. And it lowers the amount of even the normal types of sideswipe intersections that you might see. So the biggest impact on a roundabout intersection is that it eliminates the 2 types of crashes that cause deaths and serious injuries, which are head-to-head crashes and T-bone crashes to the side, perpendicular. Those are eliminated at a roundabout intersection. The most type of crashes that you'll get are side swipes and fender benders. And also most serious and fatal injuries occur because they occur at high speed, because people try to rush a stop sign, because people try to rush a traffic light. People try to make a left turn movement to try to beat the light or beat somebody coming in upcoming traffic. You won't have that at a roundabout intersection. And the other thing about a roundabout intersection is that lights are timed for the peak hour. That happens 1 hour a day. I know a lot of people are frustrated. They sit at a light and there's nobody there. You don't have to worry about that as a roundabout intersection as well. And it also seeks to, it uses our pipes of our traffic, of our roads much better. So it keeps cars moving through the roadways. I've heard nothing but compliments. We basically have the entire McCord Road corridor is now almost all roundabout intersections. You can go from Holland almost all the way to Central Avenue and you don't have to stop. So it cuts off significant time off of people's commutes. As they go down McCord Road, we only have 2 intersections left that still need to have roundabouts. One's a little bit more of a complicated intersection because it has a 5 road with 5 roads instead of 4. But for the majority of going down the McCord Road corridor, you don't have to stop. If you go down the Centennial Road corridor, you don't have to stop. If you go down the Hill Road corridor, you really don't have to stop. So it moves traffic better. Because of that, putting in those roundabout intersections, we don't believe that we're going to have to expand any of our roads. So one of the other things with stoplight intersections, it causes platooning. It's very inefficient. So with the efficient movement of traffic, we don't have to expand our roadways to 3 lanes or from 3 lanes to 4 lanes because it handles traffic better. So we were anticipating that we would have to expand McCord Road to a 4-lane road sometime in the next 25 years. With the installation of roundabout intersections, we feel that we don't have to do that, at least for any time in the foreseeable future. So they're a great update in terms of how we do traffic. I understand that there are a lot of people who are uncomfortable with them. And that was definitely the case in Western Lucas County when we put them in as well. Now, since we have over 50 of them, people are used to them. People appreciate them, people like them. People like the fact that they can go from place to place very efficiently, and they don't have to stop. They don't have to wait. They don't have to do things. They can move to where they want to go very safely and very efficiently. So with that, happy to answer your questions. One of the things that it does, we did a study with our Transportation Safety Action Plan, which we did for a 4-county area. We actually did a predictive model and a model of our area in terms of determining what was known as a high-risk network. So we want to know, if we're looking forward and we want to make safety improvements, where are our areas of highest risk? Typical roads that have a lot of traffic, typical arterial roadways typically always appear in your high-risk network. The interesting thing that we found based on the data is that the area where we have roundabout intersections and we have them at density, we have not only lower amounts of accidents at the intersections themselves, but we also have lower amount of accidents in between the intersections as well. We have lower amounts of accidents for people making left turn movements onto roads because they don't have to beat the platoon. We have better and much better safety in terms of the amount of accidents, not only at the intersections themselves, but in the general area as well, to the point that they're no longer on the high injury network. So we can focus our safety dollars elsewhere.
Thank you. Council, any questions before we go to the citizens?
Mr. President,
Yes, Mrs. Pauloff.
could you explain, the Lucas County has a program that you can learn how to drive in a roundabout, please?
We sure do, and actually we're very proud of it. One of the things that we in our feedback from the population is, there's a lot of people that this is a very new thing, and especially among our older residents, they're not as familiar with it, and that's very natural. There was a point in time where I'm sure when they put in traffic lights that people were pretty uncomfortable with traffic lights too, and how they worked, and other types of things that we do with traffic that are new. Including I have the diverging diamond interchange. A lot of people kind of think that's weird that you're driving on the wrong side of the road. But when people do it, people really like it. Like Perrysburg was very concerned about the diverging diamond interchange, and now they like it so much they want more of them. We're finding the same way with roundabouts as we keep on putting them in the western part of the county. But yes, we offer those classes. We're very proud to offer those classes. We're holding 5 of those classes this year. And depending on the interest on it, we'll hold more. And if you'd like to have them here in the city of Oregon, we'd be very happy to have them here too. So typically we have, depending on the amount of days, we could have 30 to 50 people that are interested. And we're partnered with several driving schools that basically bring their driving instructors, and they drive in the person's car with a driving instructor, and they walk them through, take them through about 4 to 5 roundabout intersections and walk them through it at a time when it's a little bit slower during the day. It's not as much traffic, and they can get really comfortable with driving through them. And most of them, after they're done, they're a lot more comfortable with driving through them with that guidance. So I think it's good, because for me and any of us here, we didn't have that when we were going through driver's ed. Right? They didn't exist. So this is kind of a way that we can provide a little bit of driver's education to people who may not feel uncomfortable or are new with it, and give them the confidence to basically drive through a roundabout.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Major, real quick.
Thank you, Mr. President. First, I wanted to say thank you, Mike. Obviously, I've known you many years, since before you were county engineer.
Yeah.
And I appreciate everything that you've done today in making the time to come here from wherever you were before. So I know you had to
My
make it
pleasure.
a little late. So also, I wanted to echo and expand a little bit on what the mayor said about the staff and Paul. You'll see in your packet there's a memo from the police and fire divisions and supporting why roundabouts make sense at these intersections. Obviously. There's a lot of support with all of staff, but I also wanted to point out that, between Rodney and the rest of the engineering staff, with Rodney, William and Andrea and Don, and now I'm getting nervous, I don't want to forget anybody. Yeah, and Brooke, yeah, especially Brooke, because she really, we were talking internally, and Brooke was the one that really was adamant that this is the right thing to do for these intersections. So, I don't want to speak for the entire engineering staff, but everybody was really wholeheartedly supportive of this effort to, if we're going to do something at these intersections, this is the way to do it. So,
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Administrator. Yeah, I mean, if we were to do them in our office, these intersections would be good fits. They would be the type of intersection that we would choose for them. They're good choices for them. I know that there's a lot of questions about the amount of property that's taken. Most of them can be fit within the existing right-of-way. Usually there's very small right-of-way takes at the corners. The last one we did, which is very similar type of intersection, it may have been like 0.15 acres, very minimal.
yeah, thank you for that. That's real helpful. And then the last thing I wanted to point out was, I know Paul had kind of talked a lot about, why these intersections. What we don't hear enough about is near misses. Near misses are almost accidents where somebody pulls out in front of another person and a car flies off the side of the road and it doesn't get reported as an accident. And I think we're going to hear some of that today from some of the people that signed up to speak, but I don't want that to be overlooked, that, just because there's 3 to 4 accidents, it's not enough to cause stop signs to be added to these locations, which my opinion is that I think roundabouts are better fits than adding stop signs, but for flow of traffic and other reasons. But we don't talk enough about the near misses, and I think a lot of it has to do with just that people live here. They know what happens. They drive through these intersections and they see people pull out in front of them. Maybe a lot of them are people that aren't from here that are expecting to see, they'll pull up to a stop sign. They won't look both ways because they think that it is a 4-way stop. If not from here, they just drive off and they'll pull in front of somebody. And that's when you get the accidents or near misses. But I think a lot of residents here recognize that and are very cautious when they drive through these intersections. So that's all I have to say about that. And I said I'd keep it brief. So, Mr. President, I'll turn it back over to you.
Mr. President,
Thank you. Mrs. Ackerman.
thank you for coming this evening. And I have driven in a lot of roundabouts in a lot of places, and it isn't a matter of whether a roundabout is good or bad. What the situation here is, and I do want to point out, it isn't a matter of just looking in one direction, because there are a lot of, so like for our town center, once that's developed, that's such a tiny roundabout that if you're only looking left, you're immediately, someone's entering to your right as you're getting on there. You have to be looking left and right to see who's entering, and especially ones that have more than one lane, but I know we're only talking about one lane roundabouts here.
That's right.
But you do have to have, you still have to have your head on a swivel, because people are coming in at different speeds. You'd like to think they're all coming down to 15 miles an hour. That's not realistic. And I did want to say, you do have to stop sometimes, because if you're not timing it perfectly as you're looking ahead to the roundabout, you've got people coming up, as I said, at different rates of speed and entering it. And a lot of times they're the same people that don't look to see where you are. You have to still drive defensively. But it is, once you're used to them, they're easy. But the issue isn't pro or anti-roundabout. The question here, why this became an issue was there was a study done in 2020 on 2 of the intersections. Those property owners, no one's been talking to the public. No one's been talking to those property owners. This has nothing to do with how competent our employees are. They're very competent. Where we drop the ball as a city is in respecting property rights of our citizens. So this has nothing to do with whether a roundabout is good or evil. I know that's what people want to simplify it down to, but this is about, if you knew since 2020 who would be impacted by a roundabout, we should have been having public discussion. If you want to sell the public on something, on an idea, you educate them and you give them a chance for an exchange of information with each other. We have a tendency in our city to get all the ducks in the row, get everything all lined up, and then dare the public to defy it or even question it. And that's where our problem is. And so it's not anything, I like roundabouts. I've been to Aruba and that's all they have, but it's a European island and they were built into the entire system from the start. A lot of the roundabouts that you see, like I was just in Tennessee over the weekend, the roundabouts were all installed in new construction, new development areas. We're talking about a retrofit into existing, that's going to impact existing homes and citizens. So that's the conversation. I think more so, when we do need to have discussions about roundabouts, I just know nobody wants to just push them on our people and say, get used to it, deal with it, you'll love it, trust me. So, I do thank you for coming, and I wanted to ask you, what was the name of that study that you said you did, and what area did it cover?
So we did a study called the Transportation Safety Action Plan. You can go to our website and download it. We did it last year.
And that will include Oregon?
It does.
Oh, okay,
It
great.
includes 4 counties, so it's Lucas, Wood, Ottawa, and Sandusky counties, and it includes the city of Oregon. So we looked at your traffic patterns and your accident rates and came up with that high injury network. I certainly understand your position. So I'll just kind of caveat that with a couple of things. So one is we had a lot of those same issues. So all of our roundabouts are all retrofits, right? They all are in existing intersections, all of them. I haven't done one from our office at least that isn't at an existing intersection that already exists. So all of our intersections are retrofits. And a lot of the things that you're talking about is not uncommon. The thing that I understand is that this is a preliminary study. So from our position, it is very difficult to talk to a property owner about what may or may not happen on their property until I have a preliminary design to basically indicate what the impacts could or could not be. So typically what we do is we always do a preliminary study. We'll do a preliminary study of those intersections, get a bunch of types of concepts. And then after we have those concepts, that's when we start to have those conversations with impacted property owners at that intersection. Because when we're talking with property owners, we want to talk about things in terms of tangibles instead of hypotheticals. So it's much easier to go to property owners when you actually have tangible things that you're working with, and you can talk to them and make trade-offs and talk to them about impacts and things to do that you can do in a very preliminary state. So that's my understanding, that's the stage that you're at right now, is that you're trying to look to go to a preliminary type of study. And that's the time when you start, after you kind of do the studies, look at it, and then come up with your conceptuals in terms of what you're going to do. That's the time when you start making the phone calls and approaching those property owners and talking about like real impacts to their properties and what you can do to manage it. So you're kind of just starting at that route when you start to do those things.
So so to call it a design study and a feasibility study, it's first a design, first you design it, then to decide if it's feasible, or you determine if it's feasible, and then you design it?
So I would say it is a iterative process. So you basically do a lot of conceptual designs and determine which one of those designs are feasible. And then once you kind of have those conceptual designs and you run through the kind of iterative process in terms of what you believe are the most feasible, then you kind of come up with your kind of final solutions about what the impacts, how big it's going to be, what type of inscribed circle, what are the size of the lanes, how it's going to be adverse to the right or to the left. Are you going to how are you going to traverse and go into them? Those are the type of things you do in preliminary design to try to get a preliminary kind of outline of what you're going to do. And then that's when you start making those outreach to those property owners. It's like, hey, this is what we're looking at, these kind of concepts. We want your feedback on those type of things about how it's going to impact you. what type to try to reduce the environmental and property impacts, those type of things. So this is the type of study where you talk about those things and you make those types of trade-offs.
Can I ask you one last question? When you have a intersection and the open area is north or south, where you'd have, so when you have a roundabout that's less than, centered on your intersection, is it more or less effective? Does it not matter if it's offset a little bit from the actual, north-south, east-west intersection?
Yeah, so for us, typically our roundabouts are slightly offset.
Okay.
So we call them to the left eye. So you make them slightly offset so that you're kind of the left side of your car is kind of where you're approaching. And the other thing is you want to make them slightly offset so that you force people to make a kind of a bend into it to slow them down. But the type of offsets you're talking about are not significant. Usually you can fit those types of offsets right in the intersection in the right-of-way you have itself.
Thank you.
Thank you. At this time, Mike, if you'd like to, you can sit down, but we have some citizens that wanted to bring up some things, so thank you.
No, I appreciate your time.
Thank you so much. First up is Mr. Smith. Tony, if you would come up, please, and state your name and address for the record, please.
Tony Smith. I live at 5758 Pickle Road. I'm a retired 36-year proud union steam fitter of UA Local 50. Thanks for letting me talk today. I wish I'd have wrote this after I heard everybody talk here, but they've covered a lot of ground. June 9th, 2017, my oldest daughter, Kirsty, and my middle daughter, Brittany, traveling west on Pickle, van traveling south on Wynn, ran the stop sign doing 40 miles an hour, hit my daughter's car in front passenger side, spun the car around, landed in the yard across the street, both of my daughters transported to the hospital. Thank God, neither with serious injuries. My youngest daughter, Tony, she couldn't be here today. She asked me to read this to you. Her name's Tony Smith. She says, I drive through two very dangerous intersections every day in my commute to and from work. I go through the intersections of Pickle and Wynn, Pickle and Dolladorf at least 4 times a day, Monday through Friday. Morning of June 19th, 2020 started like every other morning. Got up ready for work, so I was traveling to work west on Pickle. Large truck with a deer rack in the front. Ran the stop sign at Pickle and Wynn, heading north. Hit my driver's side door, pinning me in my vehicle. The fire department had to pry my daughter out of her car. Excuse me. Her car was totaled. Extensive physical therapy, multiple CTs, MRIs, X-rays. The back and neck pain went down, but it's still there. She still hurts. November 6th of this 2024, traveling to work again. Car ran the stop sign at Pickle and Wynn. Should have totaled out her Jeep, but it didn't. She's thinking to herself as she's getting in an accident, here we go again. Had to go back to the ER, physical therapy, MRIs, pinched nerve in her neck. Lucky she didn't get seriously injured, even worse, lucky she didn't die. Her question for you all is, when is enough enough? How many accidents, too many accidents? Please, she says, consider my family stories as you decide what to do at these intersections before somebody gets seriously injured or dies. Thank you, Tony Smith. I mean, have you ever got a call from your daughter? Daddy, I'm hurt. I don't ever want to get that call again. But I challenge this council. Do more than just look at the stats. Do more than just look at how much this costs. Do more than you're invading somebody's little bit of property in their land. Do more. Work together, resolve a problem. We don't need to wait for a bad result to happen. I was told the stats at the we heard it. The stats at the intersection don't show that we need one. So what? I mean, enough mishaps. I mean, it's just crazy. There's so many other intersections in this town that could get looked at also. I mean, with my background in the skilled trades, as a professional, we have something called the safety pyramid. I don't know if any of you are familiar with it. I'll briefly explain it. A lot of little incidents, they make a foundation. They build the pyramid block by block until you get to that top block. And you know what's at that top block? There's a fatality. Have we not had enough fatalities here in Oregon? I mean, have we? What about the accidents or near misses? I heard somebody say the accidents or near misses. We hear on social media from so many different people. They don't report it. There's been accidents there that they don't call the police. They just get in an accident. Numerous times I've had to slam on my brakes to keep from hitting somebody at the intersection that either wasn't stopping completely, wasn't paying attention, had their head down looking at their phone, or looking at that fancy screen in the middle of their dashboard or their car or truck. A friend of ours was leaving our house, got to that intersection, almost got in an accident, ended up in Dumburger Post Field. You know, between the overgrowth that comes from that creek on the southwest side, to drivers on their cell phones, people just not being familiar with the area. Wynn and Lallendorf roads, as you said, they've become a corridor from the Oregon Industrial District to all the businesses and 280 and everything on the south side of Oregon and in Northwood. I mean, you see it all the time, and people that I know, they travel it. I'm a pipe fitter. I worked at the refineries. I worked in that area. I see these people, and I know they come that way. To the Christmas display that's on every other year right there on Wynn Road. Every other year, people who aren't familiar with the area, people are coming in there to look at the light display. They park half on the road, half off the road. They're gazing as to where they can park, and they're looking around. We've nearly got many accidents at that intersection. And they don't obey the traffic laws. I mean, I'm not gonna stand here and tell you I have all the answers or a solution to this thing. No matter what you're gonna do, you're gonna have distracted drivers. I mean, roundabouts would be great. I'm all for them. I know how to drive on them. I know some people have trouble with it. Roundabouts will slow down the traffic. It'll make you pay attention. There's advantages, there are disadvantages. I mean, there's all kinds of other things. I mean, rumble strips might be an answer. You know, rumble strips coming all four ways. At least it'll make people lift their head and pay attention a little bit. I don't know. I don't know what the answer is. I don't know the best solution, so I'm asking this board to work with us and figure out a solution. I mean, I guess I'm that resident who wants to come here and complain, but I don't really have a solid solution. But something needs to be done before any of us lose someone close to us that's trying to navigate that intersection. I myself could have lost my 3 daughters. I don't want to have to organize a petition or get the news involved if we don't consider this a priority. I mean, it needs to be a priority. I'd love to answer any questions if you guys have any.
Thank you, Mr. Smith. Council, any questions for Mr. Smith? Hearing none. Thank you. Next on our list is Laura Davis. Laura, if you would, or Ms. Davis, if you would, name and address for the record. No disrespect, but if you need to pull that down, you can.
Okay, Laura Davis, 5494 Bay Shore Road, and I'm here to speak against the roundabouts. I've just been seeing a lot of comments on Facebook. A lot of people are against them and making comments. And the thing about that Mr. Roman said was that there has to be 5 accidents in order to get a traffic light. Well, if there's not a traffic light warranted, then why would you warrant a roundabout? If there's not, I'm very sorry for Mr. Smith and his daughters. That's an unfortunate accident. But I'm just saying that just because, I think a lot of roundabouts are put in just because, well, Perrysburg has roundabouts, McCord has roundabouts, Dorr Street has roundabouts. Has anyone ever driven down there? It's just like a racetrack maze. So I think that a lot of the thing is just because, where can we put them? Even, that was even mentioned, well, we want to put in roundabouts, but where can we put them? Let's decide where to put them. Well, that means they're not really needed if you have to just, oh, let's just pick an intersection and we'll just put one there. It doesn't seem to me like there's really a lot of thought. And my consideration is the cost that it's coming out of our taxpayer money for these roundabouts when you could put up a traffic light, four-way stops, pickle and win, a traffic light probably would work there. And then there's these studies, accident statistics, where is that we can review? I mean, is there something we can see online about these studies and the traffic accidents? And also on Wynn and Corduroy, there's good visibility there. There's big flashing stop signs. I go through the intersection every day, at least a couple times a day. And you can see far away if there's a car coming. There's nothing blocking the view, so I stop and I look. If nobody's coming, I go. And there's also signs up some of the roads, cross traffic does not stop. Well, you look at the sign and, anybody who lives out here knows that the cross traffic doesn't stop. There's people coming from other cities, if they see the flashing light, they'll hopefully stop. And there was a complaint about Brown and Wynn, somebody's bushes, that it's hard to see. You have to pull up because of the bushes. Well, has anyone talked to these property owners? And maybe the bushes could be cut down. Maybe the city could even go as a courtesy, cut them down for them. Would they rather have their bushes cut down, or would they rather have their yard torn up and their roundabout in their bedroom window? I mean, my concern is for the citizens that own these properties on the corners. I'm not affected personally, but I do care about people. And I know we just built a house. I wouldn't want to have somebody come and cut out part of our yard and put a roundabout right in our window. I mean, you got to consider, hopefully that you consider the people. And then the gentleman that was speaking said they do the study and get it all put together and then go talk to the people. It's like an already done deal by the time you go talk to the people without even considering their property and their feelings. Do any of you live on those intersections where you have your yard cut up? I mean, think about how you would feel. And then, and I just think the cost of the roundabouts is far more expensive, like $1.5 million per roundabout versus a traffic light or additional stop signs. So I think it's just, people are concerned about, oh, we get grants so we can get money from the government. Well, it's more about the people. I mean, I consider the people how it's going to affect them. And yeah, roundabouts maybe slow down traffic, but like Ms. Ackerman said, you still have to look. You still have to look because people are coming this way and they're supposed to be yielding, but a lot of people don't yield. They just go right in the roundabout, and there still can be accidents. There still can be. So I just ask that you consider the people. If you read the Facebook comments, there's a lot of comments. Maybe some are here that are the property owners, and they didn't want to speak up. But so I'm trying to represent them and just consider the property owners and the cost of the roundabouts.
Thank you. Any questions for or response?
Just, if I could, Mr. President.
Mr. Roman, yes.
And Ms. Davis, I appreciate your comments. And my comment on the 5 are more correctable. That's really to go to a 4-way stop to add 2 stop signs. A traffic light would actually need a lot more traffic, volume of traffic to warrant that. But traffic lights can be close to $1 million because you're adding turn lanes and everything else that's with that. But what I really like, and I appreciate even more with your comments, we did put up the flashing lights. Cross traffic does not stop. I mean, we've met for a lot of years with the police department. We look at every accident. We meet quarterly. We try to tweak everything we could do for these two-way stops. I mean, I'm glad you see those things that I believe at the time would work, but we still keep getting the accidents is the problem. And it's like, I'm at a point where I don't know what else to do with the two-way, and that's how this came up. So, you know, in terms of the bushes, trust me, we've gone to those property owners. At Brown and Wynn, one argument was made about the bushes there. Well, the bushes are there at the northwest corner. The bulk of the accidents are northbound traffic. It's actually people coming from Northwood. There is no sight distance issue. It's those are the ones that, and again, it's the classic, they're stopping, they just think they can go when they can't, and they hit a car. That's the problem, so.
I go that intersection a lot too, Brown and Wynn. I'm there a lot, taking my grandkids to school, and I don't have a problem.
And
I stop when I'm supposed to stop, and I look and make sure everybody's stopped that's supposed to be stopped.
I just want to correct that, that's all.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, and I would like to go back to one thing Mr. Roman brought up before about when we did the safety improvement on Navarre Avenue. And we put the turnarounds in from I-280 to Isaac Streets Drive. And we held meetings in this very room for the stakeholders, all the businesses on that road. And literally about 90% of the businesses were frightfully afraid of the improvement we were making. They said it's going to kill their business. People have to go past their business, turn around and come back in. They were, and Mr. Roman was here too. I think he's the only other one in this room that was there at that time. And they were livid and said, well, we chose to go forward. And when we got the improvement in from I-280 to Isaac Streets, in a short time, the same people that complained about it was going to kill their businesses, when are we going to get ours? They enjoyed it so much that they couldn't get it soon enough. In fact, I think in 2026 we will be completing that final phase to have those turnarounds there. The people that were vitally against it were the ones that are begging to have it now. So people are creatures of habit, and they are fearful of change. But once they get used to it, we found those people loved it. And we hope that, and you brought up solutions, four-way stops, traffic lights, that we couldn't put in anyways because they're not warranted. They do allow roundabouts to go in almost any intersection because they are warranted by the state of Ohio in almost any situation. And so even though there's costs to the city, it's less cost than the other improvements that you suggested anyway that we couldn't do in the first place. So we're wanting to do something, and we're going to the professionals that study all the data that you're talking about. And this seems to be one of the only solutions we have.
Thank you. We have one more person that is signed in to speak about the roundabouts, Kathy Wasserman. Ms. Wasserman, if you would please, name and address for the record.
My name's Kathy Wasserman. I live at 5120 Pickle Road, right by this little intersection.
Thank you.
I have seen some improvements since they put the flashing lights up. I noticed people are paying more attention to the stop signs. And that's why I was kind of surprised when they started talking about roundabouts, because it seems like a lot of money for the amount of traffic that I see in our neighborhood. It just, you know, you're talking about roundabouts on McCord Road. Well, that's a busy, busy road. I don't see our traffic patterns the same as what those are. And it seems kind of unwarranted at this point. If people are starting to slow down, the flashing lights are getting their attention. Because when I first moved there 2 years ago, yeah, near misses every time I came home. And now when I drive down, I'm seeing people sitting at the stop signs. They're not pulling out like they used to. So what you've done is helping. And I don't know if you statistically in the accidents in the last 6 months or so, or since you've done that, have you seen a change in the accidents? Can anybody answer that?
And again, I appreciate your comments as well, Mrs. Wasserman. It's interesting because there'd be an accident, this is years past, there'd be an accident, what else can we do? And it's like, you know what, let's put lights around the cross traffic. And then you'd see no accidents for like a year, and then they'd pop up again. So I would say, yeah, there was always improvements here and there, and I thought we were making headway, but we still keep this average number. And I know what you're saying. I know what you're saying. And you think, wow, it just seems like a huge cost. Signals aren't far from the same cost as a roundabout. There may be a little less, but they're not eligible for grant funding. I mean, the federal government recognizes that roundabouts do reduce severe accidents. So that's why there is funding there. And, I guess we have a lot of two-way stops, right? And it was a question of, beyond the roundabouts, there's nothing else I can do. We've done the lit lights, you have enforcement. There's not much more I can do, and it was getting to become an old story. Every time there's an accident, they say, what else can you do? What else can you do? And it's like, I don't want more accidents, but unfortunately, you need more accidents to do a four-way stop. I think to do a traffic light, there's not enough volume. But even if you wanted to do a traffic light, you couldn't get the grant funding because it's not eligible. But the roundabouts are, and the roundabouts, you can have less accidents, and it's warned. You can put them in. So I told this council last week, I said, I can't see doing this unless you get the grant funding. I hate to say it that way, but it's true. I mean, I'm trust me, I see that sticker, I get the same sticker shock.
I went to the State of Ohio website, and it did mention that if the residents would get a petition along with, even if it is less accidents, you still could have a chance of getting a four-way stop installed.
Yeah, and so, all right, so.
Isn't that cheaper, a four-way stop, than a roundabout?
Trust me, that was the biggest question on Facebook, but I'm gonna tell you, there is a Ohio Revised Code, and I'll just say it for the record, it's section 4511.11. It'll say that we have to follow the Ohio Manual of Uniform Traffic Control Devices. And that's when I mentioned the criteria. Now, there may be some way to argue that. There's no doubt, like if there's a sight distance issue, not just a matter of cutting trees down, but a turn in the road, like Star and Lallendorf was that. Star has a curvature by Pearson Bark there. It was part of the argument. Now, we barely met the 5 accidents, barely met. But there was also, Star Avenue was this weird turn, and it helped justify it even more. So yeah, you're right. There are ways you can challenge it, but it's difficult. All I'm saying is for a lot of years now, I've been just simply following the Ohio Revised Code.
But were you aware that it can be changed by petition and not just accidents alone?
No, I wasn't aware of that you could do it by petition.
That's what I'm thinking. Maybe we should investigate that a little more.
Yep, okay.
That's all I'm asking, because I am for the safety there. It is a bad intersection.
Yep,
And you do, I mean, people that live around there are aware of it. You almost have to stop.
Here's
If you're on Pickle.
and so.
Even though you're not supposed to, you almost have to.
Right, and so then here's perhaps my other bias on just four-way stops in general. So here I have Brown and Coy, four-way stop. We have a lot of accidents there.
Right.
It's close to maybe the volume of a traffic light, but it's not quite there yet. And we're wondering, what do you do? Their homes are very close to the intersections. It'd be difficult to put a roundabout in there. I almost think Coy and Brown would have to go to a traffic light. The rules are in there for the problem with stop signs, if they're not warranted, they're not gonna be followed. And Brown and Wynn in particular, I'm very fearful of the speeds on Brown.
Yeah, that's a.
And I think putting in a four-way My fear is there'll be more accidents,
I
is my fear.
That would probably warrant a roundabout more than Pickle and Win.
Yeah, and I'll tell you what, on Pickle and Win, what we feel, and this would be even harder to do, would be to reverse the stop street. Make Pickle the stop, and let Win be the through. But it'd be very confusing to people. See, you'd have to post a sign, you'd have to be a huge campaign, and then you're gonna, let's say you do it. Someone comes visiting their family a year from now, they don't realize you made the change, and boom, there's an accident.
The flashing lights help.
Yeah, I'm glad you.
They do. I'm really glad you did that.
Trust me, I'm glad to hear
I noticed
that.
it right away, and
I'm
I
glad you
did
said that.
notice a lot less near misses.
I'm glad you said that.
That's all I wanted to say.
Yep.
Okay,
I
thank you.
appreciate it.
Mr. Major.
Thank you, Mr. President. I wanted to point out, and somebody correct me if I'm wrong, but as we met last week and first we were discussing about the preliminary design, there was an accident at Pickle, was it Pickle and Win? There was, last week, on Monday, as we're talking about this, there was an accident in Pickle and Win. So, that's a thing. It did happen. I did want to mention too that I know Mr. Dunaway had to leave, but he came in this morning to the office and did mention that he was supportive of the effort for what it's worth, he was supportive of the effort to do the preliminary design. So just wanted to mention that.
Thank you.
Mr. President.
Mr.
Ladies and gentlemen, just a second, please. Ladies and gentlemen in the audience, is there anybody else that would like to speak? I know we've had some emails and things going back and forth. If you would like to, you may please come up and just give your name and address for the record and state what you would like. Thank you.
My name is Steve Curian. I live at 5057 Dove Road in Oregon, Ohio. I've sat here and I've listened to Mr. Rowan, I've listened to the Lucas County fella, and I've listened to the folks on the panel talk, and then I listened to Mr. Smith. And Mr. Smith makes the story that I don't even know why we're discussing this. If we save one life with a roundabout, I don't care how much yard you gotta give up. I don't care how much you have to give up for that. One life. And he's had 3 daughters that he's almost lost. So to me, we're talking apples and oranges here. We're talking about an intersection that everybody admits they're dangerous intersections. Let's do something about it. Let's make the change. Let's do the study. Let's go to the people. Let's talk to the people and say, okay, this is what we're going to do, what we'd like to do, and lessen the impact on the owners that we can, but let's not lose sight of we want to save lives. People come through there 40 mile an hour, 35 mile an hour, somebody's going to die. That's the end of the story. It's in your hands. It's in the city of Oregon and the people, Police department, they see it every day. It's to that point with this. So we argue and we talk and everything else, but it's about a life. And I feel for Mr. Smith and his family and anybody else that's had an accident there. We've lost 2 people on Corduroy. That's a lot to live with. That's all I got.
Thank you. Mr. Nelson, please name and address for the record.
Rich Nelson, 6419 Corduroy. I can say, as someone who's been at the accidents at the intersections, and so is Chief, I've pulled people out of cars there. I pulled friends out of cars. Thank God no one died, but still to be there and do that, Tony, I really feel for you. I really do. I mean, like I said, like I said, to even discuss it, roundabouts, people's gonna lose some property. It does suck. Is it gonna be me? No. But I do feel for them, but I would much rather give up a little property versus have a cross in my front yard because someone died there, because that's what will happen. And that's a fact. That's all I got.
Thank you, Mr. Nelson. Ms. Ackerman, I know you.
Mr. President, Councilman Salander was sent an email, but because his throat, he asked me to read it. It's from Samantha Erdman, and I question because it's easy to say things in an email. If you're not standing here in front of everyone, you can get really brave. And I know how scary it is to get up here and address this group. But I'm going to kind of split the difference here. It's pretty lengthy. Samantha Erdman, who I've heard from, she lives on Southwind, practically almost to the corner of Brown and Southwind. She's, in a nutshell, she is against the roundabouts, and ironically, she's one of the people that's the first to say, hey, you got to do something because of all of the accidents that she's witnessing there because of people's lack of personal responsibility and lack of, trying to get people to do the right thing. And we want to do a lot of expensive things to accommodate the lawbreakers. And anyway, Steve's gonna send this to all the people on council, and we'll get it out there. There's a lot of detail there, but in a nutshell, she is opposed to it. But I don't want to start where everybody sends in an email and expects it to be read. If you can't be here in person, trust me, I sympathize. I think it's good that we know and we share with the rest of council and the public, how this person feels about it. But I'm not going to read through the whole long thing there, but I do hear something over and over, and I think it's why we have these discussions, because I have known plenty of people that have died in intersections because of human error and just negligence on the part of humans. It's not, we have the stop signs. We have, every scenario, I can show you a fatality that's occurred there, whether it's four-way stops. I live out by North Curtis and Route 2. Now, tell me if I'm wrong, but how many injury accidents and fatalities have occurred at this, where there is a traffic light? And it's because people aren't even trying. They're distracted. They don't care if they break the law. They don't care who they hurt. They think they're Teflon coated for whatever reasons. We've all lost people in intersections, and I've had those scary calls where my kids have been in accidents. Sometimes they were at fault. Sometimes the other people were at fault. My nephew was just, a woman pulled out heading southbound on Wynn at Brown. He was on his motorcycle. Thank God he had a helmet on and knew how to take a good fall, because she pulled out in front of him. He broadsided her and went flying. And he was injured, but thank God, you're always, but by the grace of God go we all, every day. And somebody can just end up in your garage for some crazy reason, as we saw last week. But I think I keep hearing rumble strips. And I hate rumble strips. I hate them when I come home from Columbus and I'm dozy, I'm tired. And boy, I hit those rumble strips at 579 and Fostoria. I cuss them every time, but I wake up. And it catches me and says, hey, wait, I watch my mouth here, but I cuss at myself more than anybody. But anyway, it jolts you. So I think, we have cost-effective measures that would answer, I think it's really cheap. In fact, even if you do the roundabouts, if we decide and you go to the next cycle of grant money, we know there's another one in August, there's another one. There's still opportunity to get money for roundabouts, but in the short term, I don't know why I know why we haven't put rumble strips, because we all hate them. We hate them. They're inconvenient, they slow us down, they're annoying, but if we're talking about human lives, we're talking about safety, put the rumble strips in and save the people in the meantime. It's going to take you years to get a roundabouts built anyway, even if you go that way. So, I know I spoke to Chief earlier today, the intersection of Stadium and Cedar Point. The people that work at Vealers are constantly seeing accidents. And it's I don't know, for anybody that doesn't know, it's a north-south stop sign situation. Cedar Point moves freely. But I was telling Chief that there's a person that lives on Stadium right south of Cedar Point, but works at Vealers, and she said, you got to tell them, the people that are coming north and southbound, they see the stop sign, the stop sign shape east and west, and they think that traffic has to stop, but it's for the bike lane. And there are things that she's just like, can you point that out to them? Because we've actually run out to people that had accidents and they've said, I thought the cross-traffic, I thought they had to stop because they misunderstood the shape of the bike lane signs. So, I mean, I think having this discussion is wonderful, and I want everybody to be heard, Mr. Smith, and, factor in all of these things, and that's what was missing, is that, because a group of people who in 2020 already had gotten designs, that they've had them since 2020. It says that in the letter from Tetra Tech, that they did too. You told me, Mr. Roman, I asked you, they're pro bono, just conceptual designs
Yep.
for them. So this has been in our, apparently the administration's been thinking about roundabouts for several years. So I think it's great to have conversations about it and have discussions. And I just want everybody's voice to be heard. When I find out somebody hasn't been spoken to and it's been on the radar for years, even if you say, hey, we're just talking about it. Do you have any? What do you feel? I mean, would I'm not for eminent domain unless it has to be absolutely unavoidable, and it has to be clean water or energy or something where that the common good as a whole, not just who doesn't want to make a stop because it's inconvenient to them. So I just want everybody to please consider rumble strips, and I've heard it floated around in different conversations. And as far as switching the direction of traffic, I had someone bring up to me, and I've heard this a lot for those that don't travel out to the east end of town too much. The traffic on North Curtis and Seaman Road, the stop signs used to be the other way, and they switched them. And they said that that's helped a lot. And, anybody who drives, I mean, if you ever drive anywhere, you should always be aware of your surroundings and know that, ignorance of the law is no excuse, as they say. So if you see a stop sign, you should be looking ahead to know and not just take for granted. If you're driving that blindly, I'm really scared for humanity. But if we could continue having these discussions with the public, I really think it's beneficial, and nobody will come away with they forced this on us, they just pushed it on it, and just hope, and because they hope we'd thank them later. I mean, I think it's disrespectful. But please consider rumble strips. That's all I'm asking. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Ackerman.
Mr. President.
Mr. Horniak.
I don't know if you're going to be brief, but I've got a few things I want to go through. If you're brief and want to go first, Mr. Mayor.
You go.
Okay, all right. So in looking at these, first thing I want to say is something, just to comment to something that Mr. Mazur had said. I'll speak for myself, but I think I can speak for everybody up here. I think we have the utmost respect for Paul and his shop and everybody in there. And Paul and I have had conversations over the years. Paul knows his business, and he is not going to spend a dollar unless he thinks about it like spending his own dollars. And I've always appreciated that with Paul and with most everybody through the city. So it's not we don't support the administration, we don't think we're doing the right thing. The questions we ask are based on different points of reference. So with this, and to the gentleman from Lucas County, Mike, and I'm sorry I didn't catch your last name, so I'll just call you by Mike. The 3 roundabouts that you guys are currently working on, are those the 3 in the city of Toledo?
No, they're in the county.
Okay, the 3 in the city of Toledo have been canceled or paused, I understand, is that correct?
I don't know what the city does, but we're building 3 in the county, the townships.
Okay, because from my reading over the weekend, and I've spent a lot of time reading over the weekend, there were 3 that were proposed in the city of Toledo that were slated. 1 has been canceled, 2 has been paused in anticipation of canceling those 3 because of public concern of the roundabouts going in. Just to put that out there. So there are communities that do have differing opinions. Speaking to these 3 intersections, and I will tell you, the folks that have tapped me on the shoulder over the last several days since last Monday, because I think it was apparent, Paul and I have had this conversation, I am not a fan of roundabouts. I drive them in communities all over, and a lot of people don't know how to operate them. They just don't. I'm the weird story. My phone call was for my daughter who got hit at a roundabout for somebody who didn't know how to drive one. And that is a terrible phone call. So I will tell you that. That said, after our meeting last week, Mr. Mazur and I were talking, and here's one of the concerns I have with this. We're talking about safety. We're talking about preventing accidents. We're talking about preventing severe accidents as an opportunity, okay? For going on almost 10 years now, I've sat at this table and we've looked at safety items and equipment and processes and all kinds of things. What I always hear is if it saves one person. And I agree 100% with that sentiment. But if we were to say yes today, and if we apply for a grant in July, that would help fund these. Because as you say, fiscally, it probably is not a project that the city can take on. So safety shouldn't be something we can only do if we figure out how to afford it through a grant dollars. So Joel, as we talked, whether it's the grooved rumble strips, whether it's the painted on rumble strips, whoever's exactly right. Beth, you're exactly right. If you're tooling down the road and you feel those under your tires, boy, you wake right up, right up. And I'm someone who does 40,000 miles a year on the roads. And every once in a while, you may get a little tired, or you may lose focus for a second. That rumble strip brings you right back. So I think we got to look at that. I think we got to look at that now. Not 6 months, not a year, not 2 years. Because if we say yes to looking at roundabouts, if we get grant approval, we're talking 3 years from now, at best case scenario. So in 2028, safety becomes important. So what for the next 3 years? I asked last week, and I'll renew the question, have we done everything we can? And then we start talking about rumble strips. Okay, we may not love them, but it's a more immediate attempt to create more safety in these areas. We also have the speed limit. That speed limit could be moved to 35 the whole way out. I'm talking specifically to Corduroy Road. Brown Road, I believe it changes just before that, right? Is that still higher or lower? Speed limit still at when? Is it still 35? But it jumps up after that, correct?
After state.
Okay. So we do have some other things that we can do because I don't think the state mandates the speed limits that we set on these roads. Please go ahead.
Go ahead.
So speed limits in general, so when you do traffic counts and speed, you set that speed limit at the 85th percentile, meaning that the 85% of the public drives this certain speed or lower is what you set your speed at. You can't just arbitrarily change the speed to something that is below the 85th percentile because you'll get more accidents. I mean, the theory, and Mrs. Pauloff knows we had a lot of fights on Corduroy, but I think, so you gotta be careful there. So there are rules on setting the speed limit. So you gotta make sure that there are state laws on setting the speed limit. Now, the thing about rumble strips, and the one thing, and I have the crash data with me. The common accident at a two-way stop is the stop street person is stopping, but they think they can go. They think when you see the flashing sign cross traffic, they're not acknowledging that at all. They're thinking the oncoming traffic's gonna stop and then they go. That's when there's the accident. That was the one fatality at Corduroy. I mean, it really was a person in a truck. They were doing what they were supposed to do. They did stop. It's just the person on Corduroy is going 120 miles per hour, which is crazy. But I'm just saying, that's what happened. So look, I don't mind doing rumble strips, but I don't think this is an issue of getting the stop person to stop at the stoplight. It's about them not acknowledging the cross traffic's not stopping. So there's that. The speed limit, there are rules for setting the speed limit. So you just gotta be careful. You don't wanna set it too low. And then it used to be, hey, let's put in no passing because they keep passing me. That can even be more accidents. So you gotta be careful on that. That's all I'm saying.
Well, and anybody who's driven, say, Route 12 in Michigan heading west when the sun is setting and you've got the sun at you and someone in front of you is going 45 miles an hour, Route 2, right, coming through Bono, and somebody's pulling a camper or a boat and they're going 40. You see the parade behind them, and that's a lot of impatient people just waiting for their opportunity to do something dumb, right? Because God forbid they be there 60 seconds later than they expect. So when I first got on this, somebody taught me a long, long time ago, and I believe it true today as it was then, and it'll probably be true forever. You can't legislate common sense, and you can't legislate morality. We are not going to stop people from not paying attention. We are not going to stop people from being bad drivers. We are not going to stop accidents from happening. But everything we can do to raise awareness and attentiveness of those driving, especially in these specific areas, we shouldn't be waiting another day. We have to take steps to improve the safety in all of these areas as quickly as possible using every tool that's available to us as a city that we can make these safer. The flashing red lights around the stop signs, great start to that. The rumble strips will grab attention because if this moves forward, it's still going to be 3 years. And that's if we get grant approval. And if we don't, it probably gets put on the shelf. And are we saying then that safety is no longer important to us because the grant wasn't there to do what we legally could do? And for those that don't know, the roundabouts are the legal go-around for municipalities. When you can't get a stop sign and you can't get a street light, you put in a roundabout because the state does not preclude you from being able to put a roundabout in. So it's a way of diverting traffic. It's a way of slowing traffic down. It's a way of trying to lighten the impact of the accidents that do happen. Because in the case of my daughter, if that wasn't a roundabout, she's probably T-boned. And that call's probably a little different, okay? So we have to do what we can, and we have to do it as quickly as we possibly can. I have every faith in Paul and his shop, in the members of our administration, the folks that sit in these offices that deal with the problems and the issues that we have in this city every day. We're up here once a week. We may talk about these things 8, 10, 12 times a week. Those folks are doing it every day, all day, every minute, every day. And we have to not only trust them, but we have to expect that they're doing exactly what they can for our community. I believe to a person, every one of them are. And I believe we want to support that 100%. But I think we have to look at what can we do now? How do we make this better now? Because if anybody doesn't know, that yellow thing that's popped its head in the sky the last couple of days is the sun. And that means spring is coming. And that means summer's coming. And that means the kids that are out from school in the summer, driving around, right? Corduroy used to be the racetrack when I was a kid. I don't know about you guys, right? Someone wanted to run, you went out Corduroy Road. Those things are going to start taking place. Boat traffic, camper traffic, birding folks coming in. All the things are going to bring people in our community that don't know these areas. So the sooner we do something, the safer we make our community for whatever that something is. And that's where I would challenge the administration. Let's find what that something is. And let's do all those somethings in the meantime. We can debate roundabouts all we want. Paul knows. Those that don't know, I've told Paul that will be my great battle with Paul is roundabouts. If you want to see roundabouts in truest form, go to Noblesville, Indiana, because they have one every half mile. And either you stop every half mile or you go through a roundabout every half mile. Franklin County, Franklin City, Noblesville, Plain City, down by Columbus, Dublin, same way. There are 6 of them on Route 31 in 1.5 miles in Plain City, Ohio. And I was just through there 2 weeks ago, and it took me 45 minutes to get through them. You know why? Because nobody knows how to drive through them. And the 30 to 50 people that come to the class is out of 250,000 licensed drivers in Lucas County. It's not enough. We weren't raised on driving these. Any awareness we bring to these intersections, and I had somebody stop me in the church parking lot just yesterday and said, you're talking about the wrong intersections. You need one at Pickle and Lalendorf too. And you should be studying that one too. All those areas that are areas of concerns, let's find what that something is. Let's start with that something. And if the roundabout is a long-term solution, I've said it all along, my personal opinions get set aside because I'm here for what our community needs. And if it's a safer, viable option, I understand that I can support that. I may hate driving through them. But if it protects somebody, I'll drive through them every day. And as Ms. Ackerman, I'll curse it as I go through. And I'll get to the other side safely, and I'll have to thank somebody because we had the good sense to kind of think about these types of things. But I think I would just implore us, let's do everything we can because 3 years is too long to wait to care about safety. And we need to take that effort as soon as we can. With that, I'll yield, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. Horniak.
Mr. President.
Mr. Mayor.
And I will go with personal experience that I had on Wynn Road. And 3 times I witnessed accidents, 2 that happened in front of me, 1 I seen in my rear view mirror on the corner of Wynn and Corduroy. And each of those times were people from Wynn pulling out in front of cars that they thought were going to stop. And I watched all 3 of them happen. I also came up just as the accident on Cedar Point and Wynn happened, and lo and behold, the one car that was going down Cedar Point and the pickup truck pulled out in front of it, I had as a customer earlier that day, and Brandon Began was there, and I said, I know that guy. He goes, his wife is not going to make it. She did die that day. So each of those times that I witnessed, the other ones were 3 very serious accidents. Other people died. More people than 2 died in the corner of Corduroy and Wynn. It was just years ago. If you go back, you'll find that more people did die there. But each time that I knew of, people, rumble strips would not help because the people pulled out from the stop sign that were already stopped in front of other people. And so, as Beth Ackerman brought up, that you will not stop an irresponsible driver and make them drive responsible all the time. However, and I think our county engineer will tell you that the stats will say in a roundabout, if there is an accident, there's less fatal accidents and less critical accidents in a roundabout versus a non-roundabout. So we're once again faced with the professionals we have giving us advice when we ask for it. That's why we have this presented before you today. Yes, like you said, what can we do? Well, maybe it's a little bit long-term. Maybe there's other things we can do. Rumble strips are not going to be of assistance in those intersections because that's not what's causing the accidents. And hopefully we can find something else with flashing light, more flashing lights, whatever. But I still do believe we asked for improvements, and this is the solution that our professionals come up with.
Mr. President, if I may, just speaking back to that, but if the rumble strips heighten the awareness of the east-west travelers, if for a second they just tune them in, right? If you're on a rumble strip and you're not paying attention, or you're
You would put a
looking at
rumble
a
strip
phone,
on the flow-through road? You can't.
you'd have to put it on the stop?
You normally put it on the stop.
Yeah, and they're already stopped.
Trying to wake them up, you gotta stop.
Okay, okay.
Mr. President.
And I understand, I've used them and that wake me up, but you're in kind of a more rural setting. Even that's a little bit rural, I'm not sure that's the rumble strip area.
Well, let me say this, and Mr. Horniak, I appreciate all your comments. No matter what decision you make tonight, there will always be accidents. Okay, don't get me wrong. And we are always continuously looking. And when we meet with the police department quarterly, I know Ryan Spangler had looked at Bay Shore and Otter Creek Road. There were vehicles leaving the big turn there, and we went after grant funding to put in the chevron that will basically wake you up that you left the roadway. In front of Star School, Star Elementary, Facet, we put it in the flashing beacons, for the crosswalk. We are constantly looking. So we will, I promise you, we will always keep doing that. So I just want to comment on that.
Mr. President.
Thank you. Ms. Pauloff.
Thank you, Mr. President. I've known and worked with Paul Roman on road issues for 22 years, a lot longer than I've been on council. And I've studied a lot of different ways to stop traffic. Rumble strips, I'm all for rumble strips. I don't want them by my house because you can hear them a mile away. I can be outside and hear the ones at Curtis and Seaman, plain as day. The going over them, you can hear them. So the houses that are close, I think that they would complain about them more than a roundabout. You don't hear a roundabout. So, but as a temporary thing, of course. I mean, if it would work, it would work. I do appreciate everything that the engineering department does, and I would love to see, after that 22 years, that Corduroy Road becomes 35 miles an hour. I've been wanting that for all this time, and Paul and even the mayor know how diligent I was about that. And the police would park the speed trailer right in front of my house just to tell me they're doing something. So I get it, and I get all the ways that we can make these streets safe, but I am for let's get something there immediately, because even if we pass this tonight, it starts the ball rolling. We're not going to see one there for how long? A couple years? So we do need to do something right away. Even if it's rumble strips, no matter what it is, we need to be proactive of this, because God help us if we have to be reactive. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Pauloff. Mr. Wallenczak.
Thank you, Mr. Reeves, Mr. President. I'm not going to go on because everybody has expressed my sentiment already. Again, I came in thinking that I was going to be the one that talked about rumble strips, but it seems like everybody else is talking about rumble strips. And I thought I was going to talk about, well, if we pass it now, it's not going to be for another 3 years before we do it. Everybody else on this council is thinking the same thing. Something has to be done, because we can't extend out the safety issue. If it is a problem, we have to do everything possible to alert people to those intersections. And if it minimizes one crash, then it minimizes one crash. So if we go through with this study, there's no guarantee that we're gonna get the money. So even if we do go through with this, we need to do something to raise awareness at those intersections to make an attempt to reduce the accidents. And you know what? If you put rumble strips in, we may go 2 years without an accident there. But we've never tried it. But so that I feel the concern of the residents. Mr. Smith, I feel your concern, and we should do something now. We shouldn't wait 3 years and say, the roundabout's gonna solve our issue. If it's an issue, we should do something right now. So that's, again, I share the same concern with every council member. I share the concern of the administration. I share the concern of you and your department. You know, our engineering department is probably the best department in Lucas County. People may argue that, but I'll die on that hill. Our engineering department is the best in Lucas County. But if it's an issue, let's address the issue. He just like that.
Thank you, Mr. Wallenczak. Council, anything further?
Mr. President.
Mr. Salander.
Thank you, Mr. President. Since I'm the only one that hasn't said anything yet, sorry about my voice, but I'll do the best I can. I agree, Mr. Wallenczak, that, I mean, everybody's kind of expressed my same thing, same opinions as well. You know, I have spoken to quite a few people over the last week and stopped out to see some of the property owners out there and have a look at the intersections myself too, just to kind of get out of the car and look around. You know, I'm extremely against eminent domain and anything with people's property, and that's at last effort, just like what Ms. Ackerman said. You know, as far as roundabouts go, I don't mind them. They don't bother me too much. I've gotten kind of used to them, so I don't really have a problem with them. But it's just, again, what other people have said too is that it obviously is an issue. I mean, there's no question. I mean, even if you paid attention even on Facebook over the last year or so, I mean, you see people commenting about accidents being out there. So it is obviously an issue, Mr. Smith. As a dad to a daughter, I have one, but I wouldn't want anything to ever happen to her, and getting those calls, you had me choked up. So I feel for you. But I agree that, we can't wait for things, if this does pass, again, I just echo everybody else, but we need to do something right now. And the one recommendation that I kept hearing all over and over and over again was rumble strips. And I believe there are different kinds that maybe aren't as loud, that, can be considered.
They're called mumble strips.
Mumble
They
strips.
reduce the exterior sound.
Okay. It might be something to look at, but I agree. We need to do something right away. And every little bit we can do, anything we can do, I think is important that we do on right away and not wait. But that's all I have. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. Salander.
Mr. President, one last thing, and I'll
Ms.
make it
Zach.
really quick. I
I'm sorry?
promise. I'll make this really quick.
Okay.
Target enforcement. I'll be the bad guy. Make examples out of violators, people that break the traffic laws. If anybody's ever called Woodville Road or Woodville, Ohio, you should know this. They're notorious. Do you speed through Woodville, Ohio? Why not? Yeah, you're higher risk of getting caught doing it. If we, put it out there, make it that it's, I don't like to drive slow. I don't. And, but hey, the reality is if it's a matter of safety, if we make some examples of some of these chronic violators, instead of kowtowing to them by changing everyone's life, it's ridiculous. It's like they're the ones that need to suffer, not families, not people losing loved ones. So in the short term, as we're waiting to move forward and do whatever it is we decide to do, I have no problem with increasing fines. I know they're dictated by the state, correct? But target enforcement of areas, just like you do with drunk drivers. If you say, you know what, from now till whatever day you set windows and say, hey, we're gonna be looking at those. And I know, like Chief said, you can't exactly sit out, you're gonna be in plain sight no matter what. They're gonna see you, they're gonna slow down, but let's see if that changes the number, of issues while we're in the process of the greater fix. But I'm all for it. I don't care if, I know people will get mad at me if I say, I'm okay with you getting a ticket if you break the law. Okay, I just want that as a matter of record. Don't cry to me if you get ticketed for blowing a stop sign. I don't want to hear it.
Thank you, Ms. Ackerman. There was one lady that raised her hand that would like to make a comment. Please come up if you would and state your name and address for the record.
Annie Dominic, 3814 Brown Road.
What was the name, ma'am? You were away from, right here. Thank you. Could you give it again, your
Annie
name?
Dominic, 3814 Brown Road.
Thank you.
Unless laws have changed, you can get the road changed to 35, because my cousin in Midge Across Road and I got it changed on Brown. And what you had to do was take paper around, get a petition, sign it if they wanted it. We came out here and it was made 35.
Excuse me, Mr. President, and again, there can be several code sections that follow that maybe warrant a speed reduction. I just know that when you set a speed, it is based on that 85 percentile, so.
Well,
Yeah,
just
I get
we
it.
did
Yeah,
We
yeah,
did
usually
it.
what happens, usually when a petition like that, we'll go and examine the road, we'll do the speed, we'll do a speed study. We actually will hire DGL just to assist us.
Right.
Yep.
And then my son had a stand a few years back on the corner of my property. And I don't know anybody that drives 35 down Brown. And I'd called the police.
That's my fear.
And I told them they can park in my driveway or they could park over where the stand was in that driveway. I mean, they could park wherever they wanted. And they did a few times.
Okay.
So, yeah. And Brown Road is from Coy out to Curtis, Ohio. A straight shot. It's ridiculous. There should have been four-way stops, something put up a long time ago. That's too bad in Allendorf because the fact they stop on Allendorf, which they do. And if you're gonna turn, you gotta be careful. But other than that, you got a shot straight out and those people zoom. They don't know what even, probably 70 is. Yeah, they're shooting. So there needs to be something done and why, I think the rumble strips are great. I agree with you and Beth. I like them. So anyway, that's what I got to say.
Thank you. Council, if there isn't, Mr. Roman.
Just a quick comment to Mr. Salander's comment on eminent domain. I can tell you, we've done multi-million-dollar projects for a long time, along Route 2 and a lot of different places. It's extremely rare to go eminent domain. And I'm just saying that personally, I treat every resident as if it's me, as if it's my property. You know, we do work with every property owner, and we try to go through why we're doing the improvement, what the purpose is, and I look at it like it was my property as well. And I think it's been, I think we've had a lot of success avoiding eminent domain, okay? So I just want you to be aware of that.
Thank you. Mr. Mayor.
And I just want to go back to the cause of almost all the accidents that were on Wynn Road were because people were stopped and thought that the flow-through traffic would stop also. So targeting or issuing tickets for people who are already stopped don't realize they're violating the law. They think that other car is going to stop. Rumble strips don't help there because it's on the flow-through. What we need to do is find a better way to identify to the people that are stopped that it's a two-way stop. The flashing light is one way to let them know that the stop is there, but to let them know that the other traffic isn't stopping might be the way, because your enforcement nor your rumble strips are going to help almost any of those accidents.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Council, anything further? Hearing none, I will assign, lost here a minute. I will assign number 77 of 2025 as ordinance 77 of 2025 and ask Ms. Rawson to please read it into the record.
Authorizing the mayor, finance director, and director of public service to enter into an agreement with Tetra Tech, Inc., 420 Madison Avenue, Suite 1001, Toledo, Ohio, to provide preliminary design services for the Wynn Road Roundabout feasibility study in an amount not to exceed $100,000 and declaring an emergency.
Thank you, Ms. Rawson. Council?
Mr. President,
Yes, Mrs. Pauloff.
I move for passage of ordinance 77 of 2025 as an emergency measure.
Thank you, Ms. Pauloff.
I'll second to forward.
Second by Mr. Horniak. We have a motion by Ms. Pauloff, a second by Mr. Horniak. Ms. Rawson, would you please take a roll call vote of council?
Mrs. Paula?
Yes.
Mr. Horniak?
Yes.
Mrs. Ackerman?
No.
Mr. Reeves?
Yes.
Mr. Slander?
No.
Mr. Wallensack?
I'll vote yes.
Thank you. Ordinance number 77 of 2025 does pass with three yeas?
4 yeas.
4 yeas, 2 nays.
It does not pass as an emergency, but
It does not pass as an emergency. Thank you. Our next item on the agenda for consideration and passage is item number 79 of 2025. I can hang on for a second. If people would like to go at this time, you feel free to leave. Thank you. Moving on, our next item on the agenda for consideration and passage is item number 79 of 2025, that was presented last week by Mayor Safarian and City Administrator Joe Mazur. Anything further?
I do have, Mr. President.
Mr. Mazur.
I do have two follow-ups from questions that were asked last week. There was a question about the 10% tax that shows up on a hotel bill. And the answer is whatever this would be in addition to that. So there is other communities, Maumee and all of the other communities in Lucas County do have a hotel motel tax. And if you saw what's been going on in Perrysburg, they're looking at increasing theirs to 6%. The proposal here would be to formulate something that would be somewhere between 2% and 3%. So with that said, that hopefully that answers that one. The other question had to do with the facade program. The way we're looking at setting this up would be if it's a 3%, then it would be split. So whatever's collected, and let's use the estimate of $200,000 per year, that would be split between $100,000 to a convention and visitors bureau that would need to be created. So that would need to be set up as a part of this. Half of it would go towards that. The other half would go to the city in the form of general fund. So it would be straight general fund money. So the answer is yes, but only if you want to use general fund money to start a facade improvement program. The portion that goes to the Convention and Visitors Bureau would not be able to be used for, and I'll give the language, that any funding that goes to a Convention and Visitors Bureau is to be used specifically for promotion, advertising, and marketing. This would not qualify for that. And just so you know, this does get, at least the portion that goes to a convention bureau gets audited every 2 years by the state. With that, I don't have anything else to add for the questions, but one last small item is that this code section was added to the state budget just this past week. So it's good timing for us, and time is of the essence. So requesting passage of this with emergency so that we can get working on this right away. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mazur.
Mr. President.
Mr. Wallenczak.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President and Council, the passage of this would allow us to utilize that travel and tourism dollars towards any kind of beautification along Navarre Avenue, the entry points into the main corridor of our city, the banners, so a lot of things that we want in that area, we will be able to utilize because we're promoting the city of Oregon with those items. So even though it may not be a facade improvement project, though we could legislatively take a portion of that money that goes to the general fund and say that we are going to give a percentage towards grants, towards the businesses to help improve some of that and have a program that we would have maybe so many people or commit so many dollars. That's a discussion that's down the road yet. But we would be able to utilize a good portion of that money for the beautification of the Navarre Avenue corridor. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Wallenczak. Council, any other questions?
Mr. President?
Ms. Ackerman.
I think what you want to do as far as the beautification, like specifically near at the overpass, as you come in on 280 into Oregon, is something that declares the city you're entering into, like a lot of other towns have, I think is long overdue. And that's all very appealing. I do feel very strongly that using taxpayer dollars to hire a lobbyist, I am opposed to that. And I think that Mr. Mazur, I think that we have people, possibly Mr. Horniak, Mr. Wallenczak, something, they are good speakers and everything. I think we know enough people with enough influence that I don't think we need to spend $30,000 to get our voices heard. I mean, even if we went back to the old school, bombard whatever state reps we have to with letters, I'm old school. But I just personally, if I say no, it's not because I'm against beautification of Oregon or anything. It's just that I'm opposed to spending taxpayer dollars for lobbyists. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Ackerman.
Mr. President,
Mr. Major.
I'd like to respond to that. Yeah, I know Andy Herf is a lobbyist, but this would be for writing the code and writing our city section into the code to allow us to do this. So it is legal work. And it's very nichey because this code itself is very nuanced. So, and this person, Andy Herf, is the one that's written most of it. In fact, he is also the, I want to say he's the executive director of the Convention and Visitor Bureaus Association for the state of Ohio. I do think that's a thing, but and when we discuss this on the phone, he does hold that position. So he's, I mean, this is kind of a niche thing for him that he's very well versed in, very involved in, and does care about it. And part of this is also to help us set up that Convention and Visitors Bureau. That would be a requirement for us to do as a part of this once, so if this is passed and this gets established. So that's, just want to say it's not just a lobbying effort. This is the legal work to set, not only to get it in the state budget and get this passed, but also because it's code writing, but it's also setting up the Convention and Visitors Bureau. So, thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. Major. Council, any further questions? Hearing none, I will assign item 79 of 2025 as ordinance 79 of 2025 and ask Ms. Rawson to please read it into the record.
Authorizing the mayor to enter into an agreement to retain service or certain legal services of Shoemaker Advisors LLC at an estimated cost of $30,000 in connection with government relations and lobbying services for establishing a lodging tax for the city of Oregon and declaring an emergency.
Thank you, Ms. Rawson. Council.
Mr. President,
Mr. Horniak.
I move for passage of ordinance 79 of 2025 as an emergency measure.
Thank you, Mr. Horniak.
Second.
Second by Mr. Wallenczak. We have a motion by Mr. Horniak, second by Mr. Wallenczak. Ms. Rawson, would you please take a roll call vote of council?
Mr. Horniak.
Yes.
Mr. Wallenczak.
Yes.
Mrs. Ackerman.
No.
Mrs. Paula.
Yes.
Mr. Reeves.
Yes.
Mr. Solander.
Yes.
We have 5 yeas to 1 nay, thank you. The ordinance of 79 of 2025 does pass. Thank you.
It's an emergency.
What's it?
It was an emergency.
Right, 5 yeas to 1. Correct. Our next item on the agenda for consideration and passage is item number 80 of 2025, being presented by Mayor Safarian and City Administrator Joel Major. Mr. Major, anything further? Council, any additional questions? Hearing none, I will assign item 80 of 2025 as ordinance 80 of 2025 and ask Ms. Rawson to please read it into the record.
Resolution in support of State Issue 2, renewal of the State Capital Improvement Program on the May 6, 2025 statewide ballot.
Thank you, Ms. Rawson. Council?
Mr. President,
Yes, Mr. Horniak.
I move for passage of resolution 80 of 2025.
Thank you, Mr. Horniak.
Second.
Second by Mr. Wallenczak. We have a motion by Mr. Horniak and a second by Mr. Wallenczak. Ms. Rawson, would you please take a roll call vote of council?
Mr. Horniak.
Yes.
Mr. Wallenczak.
Yes.
Mrs. Ackerman.
Yes.
Mrs. Pauloff.
Yes.
Mr. Reeves.
Yes.
Mr. Solander.
Yes.
Thank you. Ordinance 80 of 2025 does pass with a vote of 6 yeas and 0 nays. The next item on the agenda for passage and consideration is item number 81 of 2025, being presented by Mayor Safarian and our Law Director, Melissa Pepora. Mrs. Pepora, anything to add?
Nothing further, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mrs. Pepora. Council, any additional questions? Hearing none, I will assign item 81 of 2025 as ordinance 81 of 2025 and ask Ms. Rawson to please read it into the record.
Authorizing the mayor and finance director to issue a purchase order to Justice AV Solutions, Inc., 13020 Middletown Industrial Boulevard, Louisville, Kentucky, for the purchase of computers, software, and related equipment in an amount not to exceed $75,752.03 to be used in the Oregon Municipal Court and declaring an emergency.
Thank you, Ms. Ross and council.
Mr. President,
Yes, Mrs. Pauloff.
I move for passage of Ordinance 81 of 2025 as an emergency measure.
Thank you, Ms. Pauloff.
Second.
Second by Mr. Wallenczak. We have a motion by Ms. Pauloff and a second by Mr. Wallenczak. Ms. Rawson, would you please take a roll call vote of council?
Mrs. Pauloff.
Yes.
Mr. Wallenczak.
Yes.
Mrs. Ackerman.
Yes.
Mr. Horniak. Mr. Reeves.
Yes.
Mr. Slander.
Yes.
Thank you. Ordinance 81 of 2025 does pass with a vote of 6 yeas, 0 nays. Having considered all items on the agenda this evening, we will now move on to the mayor's report.
Thank you,
Mayor.
Mr. President. You did get correspondence with several appointments, and I'm going to start first with one from the fire department. And this is a two-part appointment resignation where an individual is resigning from the full-time department to be hired in the part-time department. So I'd ask council's concurrence in this of Jacob Rands resigning as full-time firefighter. And then I'd ask council's concurrence also in appointing Jacob Rands to firefighter 2 paramedic. Jacob Rands at 4623 Lakeside Drive, 3213 Maumee, Ohio, 43537. And he will be paid at an hourly rate of $27.5165 for shift work and $29.748 for all other hours. And this appointment will be effective April 19th, 2025. And once again, I'd ask council's concurrence in both the resignation, full-time firefighter, and the appointment to part-time firefighter 2 paramedic, effective April 19th, 2025.
Council.
Mr. President,
Yes, Mrs. Pauloff.
I move to concur with the mayor's acceptance of the resignation as full-time firefighter of Jacob Rands and the appointment of Jacob Rands as part-time firefighter for the fire department effective April 19th, 2025.
Thank you, Mrs. Pauloff.
Second.
Second by Mr. Salander. We have a motion by Mrs. Pauloff, second by Mr. Salander. Council, any objections? Hearing none, Mayor, council concurs.
Thank you, council. And the next from this water treatment plant, and I'd ask council's concurrence to the appointment of Mr. Scott Coughlin, 534 Cambridge, Oregon, Ohio, as utility worker 3 at the water treatment plant and placed in classification 7, step 5 of the seasonal pay rate of $24 an hour. And this appointment will be effective tomorrow, April 15th, 2025. And I'd ask council's concurrence once again, the appointment of Scott Coughlin as part-time maintenance worker or seasonal maintenance worker.
Thank you, Mayor. Council.
Mr. President,
Yes, Mr. Salander.
I'd like to make a motion to concur with the mayor on the appointment of Garrett Anderson as the seasonal water employee, effective April 15th, 2025.
I'm sorry, Mr. Salander, who did you say?
Oh, did I say the wrong one? I'm
I
sorry.
think it's Mr. Coughlin.
Scott
Pardon me?
Coughlin.
I think it's Mr. Scott Coughlin.
Oh, I'm sorry, I looked at the wrong one. I apologize. I was reading while you were talking. I apologize.
Thank you. So you still?
So moved. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
We have a motion by, second by Ms. Pauloff. Council, any objections? Hearing none, Mayor, council concurs.
Okay, and next from water distribution, there are 2 appointments, and the first one would be of Mr. Garrett Anderson of 1646 Sugar Bush to Water Distribution Department, classification 7, step 1, hourly rate $22.50 an hour, and then of Alder Avery, 29170 Brander Road, Millbury, utility worker 2, classification 5, step 1, $18.75 an hour, and both of those are effective tomorrow, April 15th, 2025. I'd ask council's concurrence in the appointment of both of those individuals.
Thank you, Mayor. Council?
Mr. President.
Yes, Mr. Salander.
All right, now, for, excuse me, I'd like to make a motion for concurring with the mayor on Mr. Garrett Anderson, as well as Mr. Avery's appointments to the water plant there, effective Tuesday, April 15, 2025.
Thank you, Mr. Salander.
Second.
We have a second by Mrs. Pauloff. We have a motion by Mr. Salander, second by Ms. Pauloff. Council, any objections? Hearing none, Mayor, council concurs.
And next, these are appointments also effective April 15th, tomorrow, to the recreational seasonal hire list, and I will run through them. Unless people want to go individually, I'll mention all of them.
Cemeteries.
What's that?
Is this for? This is for cemeteries
Oh,
from the street.
I'm
department?
sorry, cemetery. Sorry. Kathy let me use her glasses too, and I still wasn't seeing too well. So I will go through these individuals, and there are 7 of them.
No need to, Mr. Mayor.
Oh, you accept this as what
Yes.
is presented?
Yes.
With the dollar amounts and they will be
Addresses
part of
and
the
that.
record, as Cassie will put them there.
Thank you.
So this list of utility workers 2, classification 5, I'd ask council's concurrence in the 7 individuals to be hired tomorrow, April 15th, 2025.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Council?
Mr. President,
Yes, Mrs. Pauloff.
I move to concur with the mayor's appointments of the street divisions individuals assigned to cemeteries and streets effective April 15th, 2025.
Thank you, Mrs. Pauloff.
Second.
Second by Mr. Horniak. We have a motion by Mrs. Pauloff, second by Mr. Horniak. Council, any objections? Hearing none, council, Mayor, council concurs.
Okay, this next one is from the engineering intern positions, and this is what I came for today. I come to make a pay raise to Mrs. Khadija T. Atudi Akati.
Sounds good.
All right, from $17.50 to $18 an hour, effective today, April 14th, and that is classification 4, step 4. And then to Mr. Saif El Husseini from $17.50 to $18 an hour, effective May 6th, 2025. And I would ask council's concurrence in the pay raise of both those individuals. I could repeat their names if you want, but I will stand.
Thank you, Mayor. Council?
Mr. President.
Yes, Mrs. Pauloff.
I move to concur with the mayor's 2 appointments in the seasonal engineering department.
Who are you
Perfect.
talking about?
We have a motion by Mrs. Pauloff,
Second.
second by Mr. Salander. Council, any objections? Hearing none, Mayor, council concurs.
And I thank you, council, and that would conclude my report.
Thank you. Mr. Major?
No report, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. Major. Ms. Purpura?
No report, Mr. President.
Thank you, Ms. Purpura. Mr. Roman?
No report, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. Roman. Mr. Horniak?
2 brief items just to throw out there from my Committee Economic Development. We had the Northwest Ohio Regional Economic Development meeting on Thursday, which was down in Perrysburg, which is economic development leaders and organizations from all around Northwest Ohio. Great bit of programming, great networking available, but a very nice piece about artificial intelligence and how that'll be used and implemented into economic development over the next several years. So very interesting with that. And on Friday, we did have our membership meeting for the Oregon Economic Development Foundation, where we had people from the Port Authority there, as well as folks from the Museum of the Great Lakes. And for those that haven't been there, I'd really recommend take a trip and go see that. It is a gem in our backyard, and if you're looking for something to discover, a little bit of free time, it is well worth the trip. They're doing an open house in the state of the State of the Great Lakes Museum coming up in a few weeks. I'm sure the date would be on their website. Very worthwhile to be a part of that, but a lot of great things kind of discussed. One thing, just as note, the elections are going to be postponed by about 2 to 3 weeks, just basically to allow for all memberships to sign back up before they proceed with that. And that way they align their voting rights before they actually get into the election period. So that'll be pushed back into June and July for this year from their typical standpoint. And that's all I have. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. Horniak. Mrs. Pauloff.
No report, Mr. President.
Thank you, Ms. Pauloff. Mr. Wallenczak.
No report this evening, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. Wallenczak. Ms. Ackerman.
Mr. President, for my standing committee, I saw a news story on Channel 11 this morning in regards to Toledo's new water line that passes beneath, what they discovered that where the Toledo line passes beneath EnviroSafe, that they were encountering chemicals. They said that the city's, Toledo's water was not in any danger of it, but that the chemicals were probably there for at least 50 to 60 years. And I was just hoping that you could, if anybody in the city hears anything about that, as you know, whatever's inside Oregon, inside our property line, if you could keep us abreast of the situation, and maybe you already know, Mr. Mazur, you have, you know, you might know already. If there's anything more you can tell us.
Mr. President, if I may, I know just as much as what was sent out by the City of Toledo's press release, so, yeah, that's, if anything does come up, I'll be sure, and staff will be sure to ensure that everybody is informed of what's going on with that. Obviously, that is in the City of Oregon. There are elevated levels of some contaminants that they spotted, and they do have, and somebody correct me if I'm wrong, but I think they have about 300 monitoring wells around the facility. So they're constantly monitoring the wells, the groundwater, and leachate, everything else. The City of Toledo obviously had to go in and do some soil sampling in areas that around that water line. So in places where there are no monitoring wells, so that's where they found the hit. So
I saw they briefly put a picture up of like the track that the new water line would take.
Mm-hmm.
Is it going to run right alongside the existing, do you know, or can you get me a copy of, or is that something I can find on Toledo's website, do you think, or? If it's going to pass all through Oregon, I'm curious.
Yeah,
where
we
it's
can get our
going.
hands on it, yeah.
Okay.
And my understanding is it is following the same path of where the existing is.
Oh, okay.
So whether that's factual or not.
Not
we'll have to-
deviating very, okay.
I don't believe they've deviated from that, just because from one of the reports I read or heard from somewhere, is that the expense to divert it around the EnviroSafe facility was cost prohibitive for them, so.
Oh, okay. Great, thank you.
Yep. I will find out and report back to everyone.
Oh, great, thank you. Thank you, Mr.
All set?
Yeah, thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Ms. Ackerman. Mr. Salander.
Thank you, Mr. President. Nothing from my standing committee, just a couple quick points. If anybody ever thought being on council was easy, I think you just saw this meeting here to tell you that it's not. So I want to first of all thank everybody who, some may not be here now, but for coming out this evening and sharing your feelings, with all of us. I want to thank my fellow council members too, because I know that all of us have been working really hard just to try to figure out on the roundabouts what to do and where to go. A lot of things to weigh into it, and it was an extremely hard decision. I think I don't speak for just myself on that one. Anyhow, so the other thing is just last Saturday, we did a cleanup alongside with the Bay City Bike Club and had about 15 or so people show up to help clean by the bike paths. And we were out there for maybe an hour and a half, something like that, out there. And I just want to thank the bicycle club for coming out and everybody else who came out. It was a really good turnout and it really went well. So we'll be doing some more with the club. And anybody else who wants to join in too, let us know. It was a good time. I want to thank Andrea too, Andrea Beard. She helped me out very much, getting me some additional supplies that I needed to, especially with how many people we ended up having out there. So it was very helpful as well. So thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. Salander. I have nothing from my standing committee. I did attend a funeral yesterday and the memorial service today over at Clay. I want to thank our fire department for extending the fire trucks to hold the flag. It was half of the stadium was filled, or pretty close to being filled, and it was very, very nice to see the American flag draped across the two fire engines ladders. And I want to thank, I know it's not much with us here as a board, but the school board for allowing Clay to host that for the Best Grove family today, and Mr. Fritz, and it was a very, very nice program today. So with that being said, if there's no other further business for our council, I will seek a motion to adjourn.
Mr. President,
Yes, Mrs. Pauloff.
so moved.